think we're good. All right, Melody, you're on.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Thanks a lot for coming. This is our first time to do this. So if there are any blips, please forgive us. I'm asking for yoroshiku in advance. Please forgive us. Thank you. So this came about because I'm the program chair. We have done nothing. And like everybody, well, like many, and I thought, well, what can we do? And I had joined the OTJ online teaching group in Japan a while back, and really so wonderful and helpful, and it took a lot of the fear away. And so I wanted to do a presentation, a virtual presentation with José, who is really great speaker and a great teacher who will help us out. So before we start, I just want to introduce you to the panel. I'm the program chair for Niigata JALT. Our president, Claire Kaneko, is here. And Phil Nguyen is here. Phil is fantastic. He's our tech guy. He's going to be doing the tech. So we have all our roles kind of divided up, which is really great. It's very helpful. We have Matthew from Tokyo. So what we're doing today, Matthew said he wanted to join us in this enterprise, which is fantastic, brings in a lot of people. And what I'm thinking to do for Niigata JALT is maybe once every 3 weeks or so to team up with a different chapter and have a different speaker. And so this is kind of our test run for doing this. Okay, so José Domingo Cruz, I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's get started.
Thank you, Melody. Thank you to all of the panelists. I'm José Domingo Cruz. I feel very strange saying my full name when I don't have a whole bunch of Japanese kids looking at me in wonderment like, hey, that Asian guy speaks English really well. I've been asked, and I humbly replied yes to give everyone a bit of a chat about what we are all going to be dealing with in the next few months, what some of you have already been dealing with, perhaps even as early as what I think some of my friends started actually teaching in the middle of April. And what I have not yet even myself begun doing. My classes don't come back until May 7th. And even then, I'm not really sure, because now we're hearing that the Prime Minister will be making an announcement on May 6th. And I'm wondering if that May 6th announcement might not even contain something about how he's suddenly going to put classes off until September. So it just goes to show you how unpredictable all of this is right now, and how odd the situation that we're in. So just to reiterate, a lot of you literally have more experience teaching over Zoom than I do. To students. What I've done is work with colleagues, and I've helped them learn how to use Zoom, and I've taught them where the buttons are. But there's just nothing like, as you would well know, nothing like actually being in a classroom with 30, 40 students, some of them very nervous, very anxious, because this is their very first year at university, and actually don't know any of their friends that they from high school. Maybe they don't have any friends at all at this new university. So because of that, I kind of cut up my presentation, and I hope to be doing this for about 90 minutes or so in a few different parts. And one of them first is getting adjusted to the digital stage. You're on stage. We normally would come onto the lectern, and we know that it's time to turn on the teacher switch, but sometimes the digital stage can be a bit overwhelming because there's so much more to have to handle. Second, the decisions and the methods that I've come to decide, and I wanted to call best practices, which I realized was not a very humble title, because I don't know what the best practices are, because I don't think anybody knows what the best practices are. We're not going to have any real clue to that until we can, as scientists, as social scientists, all come together, discuss what it is that failed and what succeeded, and then we can talk about what is best or better. But best practices were informed by my what should I say? I was enlightened by a couple of Facebook posts that I read by teachers in America who had already started online education from February or so. And one of the things that they really emphasized is that there's a weird situation, and I think what is really going to help our students is a sense of empathy and compassion. And I know that that doesn't seem like it's really hands-on, and it's a little bit maybe just a little too iffy, it's up in the air, but it informed a lot of my decisions, and a lot of the things that I'm talking about right now came from that. Even the stuff that I can talk about as technical points. And we're going to be talking about so the digital stage, empathy and compassion, a few other subheadings from beyond there, and then the other last heading is how to make lemonade out of all of these lemons. There are so many lemons. There are lemons piled up to your neck. And if you're not really looking, you might think that those lemons are just in your way. But if you think about it well, you might actually be able to take advantage of things for your own and for your students' benefit. So first, let's take a look at the digital stage. Phil, I sent a link to YouTube. Is everyone, are we going to be able to get that on chat, or how did everyone see that?
We can send a link or through the chat there. Give me a second.
Yeah, it's the link about how to best appear. I forget the title now, but what was it again? No, those are my polls. It's about how to, oh, that's in the way. Sorry. Oh yeah, how to look good on a webcam. So if you could pop that into chat, I think that would be handy. Anyway, I'm going to assume that Phil's going to get that in there. And I would suggest that you take a look at this, because I didn't know half of that stuff that was in there until I watched the video. So first, take a moment to remember that, you know, these kids, when they're sitting in front of the computer, they still might have the attitude that I'm maybe even subconsciously that I'm sitting down to watch YouTube, or I'm sitting down to watch TV. And the things that they're used to, well-lighted sets, people who put on their makeup and have makeup artists work on their makeup for them, men and women, might not leave them for the first couple of weeks. So this is their first impression of you. And I would suggest that you watch what's in that webcam to show you how to make the best of your surroundings, how to make the best use of lighting. Here, I'll give you just a quick example of how, if you're not well lighted, this is what you look like. And it's not that you can't see me, but now it's almost eerie because there's light coming from the screen and light coming from my desk lamp. So if I turn off my desk lamp, it's a bit more balanced. But I don't want to look eerie, so I have another desk lamp just above my computer. And I'm going to show you really quickly how my, my desk looks by showing you my phone here. I'm going to just share my screen. I'm going to grab my phone, and I'm going to show you, whoa, I'm going to show you my setting, okay? So there's my desk, there are my notes, it's my keyboard, and there's my first lamp, that's my first overhead lamp, and I have my overhead lights, okay? And my second desk lamp, which is, whoa, what the heck happened there? Oh, I'm sorry, I think I just effed the cable a little bit. Okay, that's my second desk lamp there. And we're gonna kill that share. By the way, if you're not accustomed to screen sharing, oh, Phil, did we get any results on that poll about everyone's skill on Zoom yet?
I can pull it right now.
Thank you, sir.
So yep, so I'm going to
pull.
pull. So for all you attendees, I have a poll that's going to pop up. Please go ahead and answer the questions right now. Panelists, you can also do it right now.
Okay. Sent mine. And I'm probably going to assume, or I'm probably going to predict that the results will probably bring everyone in at mid-level. Most of you probably are interested in this because you've used Zoom and you want to use it more. But I just wanted to get a feel for what everybody can do. So you probably realized, oh, he's sharing his phone. And if you have never done that, it's an amazing trick. Your kids will love it, especially if you didn't do what I just did, which is to share your phone as it's connected to a cable, but you share your phone as it's connected over Wi-Fi. Unfortunately, sharing your iPhone over Wi-Fi, oh, by the way, it has to be an iPhone, sharing your iPhone over Wi-Fi is even cooler because then you can walk around the room a lot more. But then you need to have a Wi-Fi network. Most of us do, but it's something that you have to be careful about. Where would I see the results, Phil?
We are at about 92% have voted. I'm waiting another 5 seconds before I release the results here.
I see where it is. Okay.
2, 1, and polling. And let's go ahead and share.
By the way, everyone, what you're looking at, if you've never seen before, and I'm privileged to be part of a webinar. This is a webinar, which is slightly different from a Zoom meeting in that, you know, most of the attendees are all hidden away. And it looks like the only people in the meeting are the 5 of us. And the other 4 have already muted their microphones and shut off their cameras. So you can consider them the panelists, and the attendees are like people who were just kind of lurking in the background. So if you want to think about, well, how do the functions work? What are the limits? Think of this as a regular meeting between 5 people that up to, I don't know, 500. Yeah, 500 other people can watch if they've registered and are allowed in. That's a webinar, and it's really cool. Okay, never used it. Oh, okay, so there's a few people who've never used it, and a few people are pretty confident, but yeah, around the middle. The most people said that they're getting used to it, which is probably what I expected. So I think a lot of this will help you in the long run, and it's not necessarily, I tried not to make too much of this, pardon me, as I said to everyone else, don't worry, I'm not sick. My temperature is fine. I checked my temperature today, it's 36.9, but it's just a remnants of a hangover. Alrighty, so I hope that this is useful for people who aren't just on Zoom. If you've got a good installation of Teams and you're able to see more of your students than, well, unfortunately, most people can on Teams. On Teams, it's only 4 people or 9 people at a time. Or if you've got a good WebEx installation and you can see most of your students, or if you're lucky enough to have Google Meet as part of your G Suite installation at your university. A lot of what I'm going to talk about is fairly applicable across the board. Okay, so just to get back to appearance. Now, when you watch that, take this off. When you watch that YouTube videos, one of the most important things you can do, if you're on a notebook, is if you've got your notebook down at table's edge, what's going to happen is that camera right there is going to be at this angle towards your nose. And you can do yourself a big favor if you can get a stand and get it up towards eye level as much as you can. Or keep it flat and put some books under here. Now, of course, that's going to make it difficult for you to type, but I would suggest that probably, excuse me, I just dropped my papers there, that you invest in a wireless keyboard so that then you've got a secondary keyboard and maybe a mouse, or the trackpad on the notebook will do. You don't probably have to do that much track padding while you're talking. And invest in that, and that will bring the camera basically to eye level. That's what you want to do. Next, think about your framing. You can see that basically you've got my head and shoulders here. Now, if your computer is a notebook and if you're in tight quarters, yeah, this is fine too. But I personally recommend a kind of a head and shoulders frame. And as a photographer, I know that a good shoot shouldn't put it so that then your head is in the middle of the frame. It just doesn't look right. But if your head is more like towards the upper third of the frame, it looks a little bit better framed. Also, don't forget, watch your background. If you start the meeting and then you notice that your pajama top is still on the floor, and make sure that there's nothing too distracting behind you, including, I don't know, laundry on the wall. Let's see. The reason why you want this kind of frame is one of the things that I'm going to mention about that also fall under the idea of empathy and compassion. Kids need a little bit more motivation out of us this coming semester to get themselves motivated to want to study. I'm going to have a lot more to say about that, but basically the point is, here you can gesture and use those gestures. You are not a human being in front of them. You are not probably in high resolution. It is really hard to see whatever emotions or expressions I've got going with my eyes or even my eyebrows. But they can see your hands and they can hear your voice. So learn how to animate yourself more with your voice. Learn how to use your pauses. That's going to bring you miles. And to gesture when, you know, it's, yeah, you, or yeah, you. Even if you're kind of faking it, that sense of, those are visual cues that are going to have to be used more in a scenario like this, I think, than they would be in a classroom. In a classroom, it's a completely different stage. Excuse me, I think other people are mentioning me on Facebook, but that points out another thing. I didn't think I would have to deal with this, but I'm going to turn off Safari. I'm going to turn off my browser. So be careful of those little pings, because suddenly somebody might be pinging you in the middle of a class. It's not that big a deal, but you might want to be careful about it. Okay, now, I don't know where else that's coming from. Oh, I know what it is. That was probably my Firefox, which I can't turn off because I'm doing a live stream at the same time. All right, be careful of your mannerisms. Whenever I do a live stream, I'm just shocked when people are asking me questions or I'm not the one that's actually speaking, how much I touch my face. And be careful that you know, going like this or maybe going like this, that's, you know, might be dangerous to you if you just shook hands with somebody that you don't know. But be careful if you start doing things like you're looking down a lot. Now, some people will do that when they're listening to people, but if you're looking down a lot like this, you got to be careful. I know somebody when he speaks, because he's really trying to concentrate and pay attention to what the other person is saying, he starts shutting his eyes. And then when he's speaking like this, he sounds so good, but he's closing his eyes when he's talking. Be careful. And the best way to get over that is to actually, and this gets over a lot of problems. If you're one of the people who said you've never used it or you've never used your university's designated teleconferencing software, get on it, practice with a couple of other colleagues, and ask each other, is my mic okay? Is my framing okay? Does my background look a little cluttered? Can you hear me? Hey, what are my mannerisms like? Am I all of those things that you think you should be concerned about, you're going to be able to get over them if you put in the practice hours. And I think now I can sell that idea a lot more, because some of us are now in classes or will be coming into classes, and you know that you have to practice, so you really should. Back in the middle of April, when I was telling people practice, 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 that's how you learn to share screens. That's how you learn to do breakout rooms. People are still thinking, I got time and I'm not sure. I'm not much of a technical person. I'm a bit of a technophobe, actually. Got to say, you know, you don't have time for that anymore. Better to fail by yourself with your colleagues. Better. Some of my biggest failures was I was still learning breakout rooms. And we went into a breakout room, and because I lost track of where I was in the main conference as the host. And I thought I was still in a breakout room, and I go to the bottom right-hand corner button, which normally was leave room, but I was in the conference, and I was the host, and I didn't look clearly, and that button right now says leave meeting, and I killed the meeting for everyone. So from now on, I know to do that because I practiced. So get in there and practice your stuff. A couple of things that you can do if you haven't seen this before in Zoom. I'm going to share my screen here. And I'm going to share my entire desktop. And now you can see everything that I have on my 27-inch iMac. You can also see that I have my Zoom windows visible. You can actually see me in two different places, well, probably three different places. Because as participants, you can probably see me in, I don't know how many people are on phones or on computers, in your right-hand corner as a normal part of the display, in the middle of the screen, because you can see my conference window, and you can see my settings window. Pardon me. You can see my settings window down below. Now, this setting is available if you go to, no, I'm sorry, not, to share screen. This is my settings panel. If you go to share screen and you look at this option here that says show Zoom windows during screen share. Normally that's defaulted to off because when people want to share their screen and they want to share an app, they really don't need, they shouldn't have to spend, Zoom thinks, shouldn't have to spend so much time moving all of these windows out of the way. Why don't we just make it so that they just become invisible? But for the first couple of weeks, probably some of you have already discovered this if you're using Zoom a lot with your students, that students go, demo sensei, そのミュートってどこですか? Sensei, うちのカメラはね、全然動いてないんですよ. And you've got to tell them, no, it's in the bottom left. And that's a little bit more trouble. If you can just show them, you share your screen. See, here it is right here. And if I was prescient enough to start up Zoom in Japanese, then they would be even more convinced because they would see the Japanese kanji for all of these words. Participants would be sankasha, chat would be in katakana, screen kyoyu would be more obvious to them. But that's that share screen. I think it's really great that it's a great big green button in the middle, so you can orient people to that. Anyway, I'm going to share you my screen, and I would suggest that at least for the first couple of weeks, you turn on Zoom windows so that then if you need to show settings, for example, or if you need to show my main Zoom window down here, where did it go? It's somewhere around. I'll find it later. But if you need to show that, how to schedule meetings and stuff, it's much easier. Then you can turn it off, which I'm not going to do right now. But what the reason why I came back here was so that I could show you virtual backgrounds. So let's say you are in a situation where you're trying to avoid your own kids as they're in one part of the house talking to their own teachers in their own online classes, and you're on your iPad and you've got to resort to working in the garage and you don't want to show that you're in the garage. Well, if you don't know it, Zoom has something called a virtual background. And what it does, it puts a picture behind you. And these things work best with a green screen. But if you don't have a green screen, Zoom can kind of make it work if you've got a kind of modern computer. So for example, my computer goes all the way back to 2014. So you can see that your fingers get a bit blobby and stuff like that. If I had a green screen, it would be great. And you've got a variety of virtual backgrounds in there that might be useful for you. But most of you already know that. But here, check out this trick. This is what I thought would be most useful for virtual backgrounds. Whoops, wrong side. This is today's topics. And I made a virtual background using a basic white sheet in my photo editing software, 1920 by 1080. So the HD resolution. And I put up things that I want students to see, constantly see, and I don't want to have to just say them once and I got to say, okay, today's topics are number 1. Everybody writing this down? I don't have to do that anymore because it's right there. You can also do things like you can talk about today's or this week's writing assignment. You can set homework there. And then you can actually talk more. You can ask questions of the students while the rest of them are writing it down. You don't, and you don't have to do the screen share to do it. You can keep your image right there. Just have to flip through these virtual backgrounds. You can see I'm flipping through these virtual backgrounds. And now you can see the function, how I do it in virtual backgrounds. I'm gonna kill this screen share so you can see a bit more of something that I think is really cool. So we're back to my main screen. Now, this is another thing that I started doing, okay? I started making movies with this. I made a small movie of something very important if you've got kids coming in with their phones and because they don't have their own accounts or they haven't logged in or they literally haven't got an account, they didn't even know that Zoom was actually an application you download to your computer, they'll come in and their name might say something as nondescript as Huawei P10 or iPhone 6S. And number one, that's a little bit dangerous for security, and I'll tell you my own experience with Zoom bombing later on. But you want to tell them information like that without having to repeat it for every person that comes in late. You might have a whole bunch of this. So you tell them, okay, well, just look at, yeah, okay, I got to get used to the mirror image. Just look at this, okay? And I see your name, and you type in your name. But from the beginning of the loop, too, it would show that you, right there, okay, under participants, and it's in Japanese, sankasha, and that's the host. Now that's your name. Now click here, come down here to, I think it's namae o henko or something to that effect, and then they can see it, and you don't have to talk about it with every kid that comes in late. I have two versions of this. One is on my on my right side, and there is another one on my left side, depending on how your desk sits or how you can shift in your chair. This one actually happens to have my brand logo on it, but on Online Teaching Japan, which is something that you can search for on Facebook. It's a Facebook group, Online Teaching Japan, 3 words. If you search there, as Melody said, it's a really good group. And I put both of these virtual background movies for download in the file section, and just grab them. They don't have my logo on them, left and right. They're easy to identify, and use them to your heart's content. If you are good with your computer, this is something that you can probably do very easily. You just have to make a movie, put it in, if you're on a Mac, put it in iMovie, and try to keep the length of the movie low, so you don't want to throw a lot of instruction at them all at once. And also be careful, this is not something that you want to do a lot of, because those virtual backgrounds do use bandwidth. There's a lot going on over your right ear that Zoom has to process and send out. So those are all things that I think will help your appearance. Moreover, don't forget, watch that YouTube video. Check out the thing about lighting and positioning your camera. One last thing about the digital stage. It'll take us a long time to get used to it, but I'm old enough to remember when cell phones became the thing in Japan. It was around 1993, 1994. People first got their cell phones, and what they would do on their cell phones was, first they would flip them open, and this one won't, but they'll flip them open. The first thing they'll say is, "Hello, can you hear me?" "Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?" And that would go on for like about a minute. So, and it eventually, you just took it for granted that the cell phone signal got much, much better, and you didn't have to assume that. You just, you get a call, "Oh, it's Ken. Hey, Ken," and you just go straight to the conversation. So I, too, have to get used to that. And I'm gonna try to not ask, "Okay, can you hear me?" If your microphone doesn't say you're muted, assume that they can hear you, okay? If you've connected and Zoom has already told you connecting with audio and that connecting with audio is finished, just assume that they can hear you. If they cannot hear you, they will see "We can't hear you, Jose," and you go, "Oh, okay." Your camera. If you can't see your camera, they can't see your camera. So don't assume that if I can see my camera, maybe they can. Can you see my camera? Try to avoid those questions. It just makes just a little bit sharper for your professionalism. Okay, Phil, did we have any questions coming in at all?
Yes, I had one question. I have a question of, how do you make your own background? Which software to use? Which applications to use?
You can get something as simple as, I think, a word processor, literally. But if you want to make a good virtual background, you have to be able to use software that can define the resolution of the image. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you probably don't know how to use that software. So I would just say, get yourself a word processor and put it into A4, and then turn it so that it's not portrait alignment, turn it so it's landscape alignment, so it looks like it's lying rectangularly, and just type into that. Type into that, put the information you wanted, and send it out as a JPEG. You export it as a JPEG. And if you can't export it as a JPEG, depending on the software that you're using, send it out as a PDF. Get your PDF reader to open it, and the PDF reader will probably send it back out as a JPEG. The problem there is, if you can't define the dimensions of the image, is that you'll probably have to play around with margins and tabs and spacings and lines to get that image exactly where you want. So the best way to do it is to use something like, on a Macintosh, I heartily recommend a $20, 2,000 yen piece of software called Pixelmator. Here, let me write that down. Pixelmator. Pixelmator, you can get it from the App Store. It's about 20 bucks, 40 bucks for the really good version. And even the the 2,000 yen version is almost, everything that I want in it. When I saw what it could do, I basically stopped paying my license to Photoshop. Photoshop was overkill for what I wanted to get. But play around. There's also another piece of software called LibreOffice. Yeah, there it is, LibreOffice. And that's open source software that you can download. And if you've ever used OpenOffice, or there's a bunch of these sort of open source projects, LibreOffice on the Mac, and I think it's also the same name for Windows, gives you a word processor, a spreadsheet, a drawing software, and that drawing software, there you can define the resolution, the dimensions of your image to 1920 by 1080. Might have a bit of a learning curve, but you know, it's free, and I think that would be really good too. And then just now to put it into your, I'm going to share my screen here again. To put it into your virtual background, just go to your go to your settings panel. I'm over here. I'm both windows. I'm over the picture of me on the right. Choose virtual background. See that little plus sign there? Once you've got a JPEG of what it is that you want to try to put up, then click that and then add image, and it'll give you a file browser, pardon me, to add to the virtual background selector list. And if you made a video, just make sure that you choose that, and then it'll look for the right file types. Any other questions there, Phil?
Not that I see so far. I think we're good.
Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about how I informed my decision-making on this. And it was informed by the idea of being especially empathic and compassionate for your students. And I think sometimes, you know, even me, I become jaded with the way that my classes go, and I tend to be a bit more cynical about how my students behave. And I'm pretty sure that's a vicious cycle. If they can smell cynicism on me, then they'll probably brush me off a little bit more, and then themselves, they might lose their motivation. I try to fight against it, but I might have been a little bit more cynical in the last few years. Not that I ever was. I'm generally not a cynic about my students or my teaching. But having come into this crisis and suddenly having to do ERT, I was reading a lot of stuff from other teachers that were in the same boat as me. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm still sharing my screen. The same boat as me, and a lot of them were saying that, you know, it'll get you miles if you just sort of stop thinking about running your class the way you normally would, because there's no way you can run your class normally, and start thinking about how you as a human being should approach other human beings, and your goal of educating them should almost be secondary. Yeah, secondary. That our primary job right now is actually to help students get over this the best way we can. I'm reminded of the fact that a lot of our students are sitting alone in a small apartment that they had already managed to get, or their parents had managed to get for them in January, and they already moved in maybe in March or in April, and they were listening to the university saying, oh, no, we're going to have physical classes, don't worry about it. And even from before January, April, they were really looking forward to this first year university, you know, it's legendary. I'm going to have so many friends. I'm going to really get into my circle or my club, and it's going to be great. And that's all gone. And these kids are carrying that kind of weight around, and they're not necessarily yet complete adults. They're depressed, and they're thinking about that. And if we still think of our classrooms as basically, well, we have to, you know, get the information in there, we have to get them ready for TOEIC, and we got to get through this material, and I got to make sure that I finish this textbook, it might succeed. You know, I've never been somebody that really has a great opinion of textbooks. I disavow textbooks, actually. I don't like using them. When I'm forced to use them, I will. But generally, when I have my choices, I like to actually do full communication classes where we do speaking. I hope to show you a little bit of that later. But if you can, if you put the idea that what can I do for these students, that it isn't just about putting more information in their ears, that was the sort of thing that informed my decision to say, I got to make myself look as good as possible. I got to make it so that I'm not hard to look at. I'll never be easy to look at, but at least I'm not, you know, you don't want to like scrub your eyes as soon as you finish a class with me. And that also informs things like check your mic. If your mic has a lot of feedback or has a lot of harsh, what we call an audio clipping, where, you know, it's because you're way too close to your mic is overwhelmed, that sound, find a way to fix it. Maybe you actually need to buy a new mic. Or maybe the acoustics of the room that you're in cannot be improved and you have to move to another room. So don't think about your convenience as anything but tertiary. And your students' mental health actually is even more important than their educational. And by the way, of course, these are all opinions, and we all have different opinions. And I think a lot of what other people might disagree with me on this is something that we can have in questions and discussion later on. But it really informed how I approach even the reason why Melody heard of me was because I thought to myself, wow, you know, like we're all going to be doing emergency remote teaching, but I know that at least 2 or 3 of my friends, they hate computers, but now we're going to be doing this thing called Zoom, and I don't even know what Zoom is. And I bet you, you know, those people are going to be asking me, because I'm kind of in local circles a bit of a geek, a computer geek. People know that, and people are going to be calling me. I better start learning this stuff so I can help them. And as I helped them and I would make videos, word got out that I knew a little bit about this, and that was informed by my attitude to be as empathic and compassionate. Empathy is an attitude, and compassion is the action based on that attitude. So that got me here. So keep that in mind. You also want to do things not just, you know, anything touchy-feely. If you're thinking about empathy and compassion, it also drives your decisions for things like security, how to control the security in your meetings. So we'll go over a couple of security issues right now. First of all, if you have not yet done it, okay, I'm going to share my screen again. And let me get up Safari here. If you have not yet done it, I would really suggest that you go through all of the settings that Zoom has, either here, sorry, sharing my screen again, either here in the app, check out all of these. You don't have to understand them, but you really should at least look at them. At some point, after you've got more experience with Zoom, you go, oh yeah, that's right. I remember seeing that about chat, and then you'll know where to go back and go, oh, that's what that means. That's what that guy was telling me about. But if you avoid these things because you're afraid of pushing buttons, I understand that feeling. But for the sake of your students, you have to put this responsibility on your shoulders to actually go in there, figure this stuff out for yourself, because if you don't, you're going to be missing out on things like security settings. Okay, so first of all, in video, okay, if you have chosen to enable HD, do not. Turn that off. Because one of the other things about empathy and compassion is you have to consider kids who are working only with a phone. And if they're working only with a phone, and they're working only with a phone in a room that has no Wi-Fi, if they're lucky, it wasn't too much of a problem to get that sponsored 50 gigabyte data pack that all the providers like Docomo and AU and SoftBank are providing free to anybody who's under 25. If you don't know about that, please say something in the chat, and Phil will tell me and I'll mention it more, but I'm assuming that all of you already know that all of the major providers have provided that, and the kids have to go and apply. But let's say that's all they have. They got a phone and they got 50 gigabytes. And you cannot start using that 50 gigabytes for your convenience. And something like Enable HD, please be careful. That tips up the scales in terms of the bandwidth that's demanded on the student to actually accept your HD video. Touch up my appearance too. That's much less of, it's a very, very marginal tick up in terms of bandwidth, but it does because it might need to. Now, if you want to know actually how much bandwidth you're using, look at this. These are your statistics, okay? And you can see that overall I haven't been using that much, half a gigabyte, right? Mostly because I'm the only image that's being sent out over Zoom right now. So that keeps it pretty low. But if you're a teacher who demands that all of their students during my class, you must have your cameras on and you must be ready to speak. That number right here of 538 megabytes at the end of the class, that's going to be up to 700 megabytes, 800 megabytes. And this bandwidth amount, now these are written in kilobytes per second. I'm sorry, kilobits per second. So, well, you know, 1200 kilobits per second, that's not so bad. That's a million bits or so, you know, that's 100 kilobytes or whatever. I'm really bad at math. But those are kilobits per second. And if you do the calculations, it will turn out the 1 hour of Zoom with, let's say, 15 or 20 participants. I'm going to turn off my share here. 15 or 20 participants, all of them with their screens on. And most of the kids, even if they're just sitting like this, because it's basically an HD signal for all of those 15 or 20 participants, will run into about 700 megabytes to 900 megabytes per hour. So you're coming up somewhere between half a gigabyte to a full gigabyte per hour. Now, if you insist on doing a 90-minute class, and theoretically, if all of the other professors were told by their faculty, you've got to teach the full 90 minutes, that kid's 50 gigabyte allotment will be gone just for classes in about 3.5 weeks, 3 weeks. Much less the online research that they have to do, much less just streaming music and watching a little Netflix so they can relax or talk to their family. So again, empathy and compassion. Try to find practices that will reduce the burden on kids in more ways than just their studying. That was what was happening in America for a little while. A lot of these kids, junior high schoolers and elementary school kids, they were being given just tons of homework assignments by their teachers. And then they had to go online and do this, and go online, do that app, and then go online and then email me this. And they were using the family's bandwidth allotment. Plus, remember, even though your kids might say in any hardware survey that you put out there that, yeah, we've got a computer at home, you didn't ask how many. And if you have a student living with their mother and father, who both work, but are teleworking right now, and a little brother or an older sister, and at 11 o'clock in the morning, only one person can use that computer. Don't assume that they're on a computer. A lot of these kids, I'm getting reports from my friends that anywhere between 5% to about 15% of students in their classes are reporting that they're using phones. To what degree those phones are only on data packs or they're on Wi-Fi, I didn't get any details on that. But again, this is where empathy and compassion informed even my technical decisions. Okay, so to get back to where I was. Now, I am not on a screen share, but I have a 27-inch iMac, and you can see that it's a big screen, and that when I want to share my Facebook page, let me get this out of the way, I would really like to know anyone who can read any of that text right now without going like this. Now, you probably can't. So if you just want to share something, remember too, this is a 27-inch screen, and if it's compacted into an iPhone screen, even kids who have really good eyesight are not going to be able to read that well. So when you're sharing a screen, unless you have to share the whole desktop, the desktop share, here, let me show you that one more time. The desktop share is actually the default setting. And if you just go immediately to share, it'll show your whole desktop. That's convenient for you. You can see everything. But you can actually share individual applications that are already running. So here I've got my Notes app, I've got Finder windows, and I've got Safari. If I wanted to show you just Safari, I can't do it right now because I'm already screen sharing. I can kill this share. Oops, no, sorry, wrong button. I can kill this share, and I can share screen again. This time I'm going to choose just Safari. I can share just my Safari window. Now, when you've already chosen that, it's focused on Safari, you can actually make Safari itself a little, whoa, there you are. Yeah, a little bit smaller. And eventually, once it starts to share again, it becomes smaller and much more legible for a screen. Keep that in mind. Imagine trying to see even that on a phone. Okay, so, but at least now it's going to be a little bit easier, and you've still got enough room to navigate and scroll and push buttons, and now those buttons will be much more visible. Okay, so I would suggest that if you don't need to share your whole screen, learn how to use the options for sharing just specific applications. And again, informed by the whole idea of empathy and compassion, kids can't read that stuff very easily, especially if it's like an older iPhone, like an iPhone 5. I've tested my iPhone 5. iPhone 5s can actually run Zoom. And there are some people, if I hadn't broken my iPhone 5, I might still be using it because it was working fine. So there's that for Safari. Now, I'm going to show you one other type of screen sharing, okay? That's actually not another type, but a different way to use screen sharing. The whiteboard is a nice little thing that Zoom put in. And if you share it, you're going to get a whiteboard. And now you all can see my whiteboard. And here I can do things like pop in text, and I can start typing text. And I can especially do things like draw, which is pretty cool. Okay, I can do shapes like this. If you were a math teacher, you could do things like X plus Y. Well, maybe this isn't what you really want to do as a math teacher, but we don't all need to do math symbols. Sorry, my trackpad is really bad for this. That's supposed to be X plus Y equals Z. But even I just wanted to write my name, J, whoops, gotta hold my trackpad down. O, oh man, this is painful. S, yeah, that's an S. And yeah, that's an E. And yeah, I look like I'm, what, 1 year old? So that's the whiteboard. If you're going to be using the whiteboard to actually use like a whiteboard, yeah, maybe if you're used to it. Or if you have a tablet with a stylus, that's going to make it a lot easier. But a stylus minimal cost will be about 5,000. A really good one will be minimum 10,000 yen. Let me show you what I do instead. If I have to do a lot of text work and I have to show a lot of students how to do it, what I do is I bring up my, where are we here? Oh yeah, there we are. I bring up my word processor. Now you're looking at my word processor. And my word processor is probably the #1 application that I use on my computer all the time. So here, it is second nature to me how to get a second line. I can type a lot faster than I can write, literally. My writing, because often I write so fast that it's hard for me. I know I'm not going to be able to read that later. I got to scratch it out and do it again. This is a lot easier for me. And by the way, I don't know if you've ever seen this before. The vocal recognition, the voice recognition on Mac OS has just become phenomenal. Watch this, okay? Here are my hands. I just got to set a button here. The voice recognition on Mac OS X Catalina is just amazing. About maybe what, 20 years ago, this would have cost about $800 to get a separate software. But look at this now, period. Okay, oops, sorry. Now it's collecting, no, it's not poops, it was oops. Okay, now everybody's giggling. Okay, class, calm down. But that was my word processor. And if I got to go back there. I wanted to show you some other things too. Where was it again? There it is. Okay. Now, if I wanted, I'm going to get rid of that poops thing because some of you are still giggling. And if I wanted to leave that paragraph up and then go on and teach other, oops, sorry, and teach other grammar, you know, this is page 2, and now I'm going to teach new grammar here. If you were using a whiteboard, you would have probably had to erase things and move things off to the side or sacrifice that one text box because you need larger space. But with a word processor, you just scroll back up to what it is that you wrote before. You can also, if you can see this, you can prepare this document so that then you have the grammar point, you have the conversation point on separate pages, and then you can see on the thumbnails where you want to go. Now, of course, you can always just scroll, but these thumbnails, will let you go to what it is that you prepared in this one particular word processing document for this particular class for this particular week. And this is what I recommend that you use. Another thing that you can use, I gotta stop the share. Another thing that you can use is, if you're more the sort of person who, more than a word processor, you're actually used to using your slideshow software, well, go ahead, use your slideshow software. And you can just use your slideshow software, and you can actually present the slideshow as your whole screen. Or, for example, this slideshow, I want to show parts of it later on, but you learn how to do new slides, or, oh, sorry, you do a new slide here. Oh gosh, there it is. Oh gosh, new slide. I got confused for a second. And here you can use these text boxes, and here you can do like shapes and charts and all the things that you want to do for your class as if it was your normal chalkboard. And again, here you've got thumbnails, plus the fact that you can suddenly just start doing your keynote presentation right off. Me, personally, I'm going to stick with a word processor, but enjoy whatever it is that you want. The most important thing to take away is that you can show an individual app, and that makes it easier to watch. I'm going to go back to security, because that was something that was important, and I only just touched on it very, very lightly. Security. So make sure that you have waiting rooms enabled. If you have just downloaded Zoom, waiting rooms will be enabled by default. And if it has not been enabled, then I'll share this screen again. Go to your settings, okay, and in general, okay, click down here to view more settings. And if you click that view more settings, that will launch your browser to go to your Zoom account. And I'm going to log into my Zoom account here. And there's my password all filled in. And you can check your settings. And if you have not yet set this page, if you have not yet checked all of the security settings that are here, please, please, please do so. There is a lot of stuff here that will reduce problems in security. Taken from somebody who's actually been Zoom bombed. If I hadn't set my settings more securely, that Zoom bomb would have succeeded a lot more than it had. And I'll tell that story about that Zoom bomb a little bit later. But there's a few things here that I want to show you that's most important. Require a password when scheduling new meetings. Very important. Make sure that that's turned on. Okay. A lot of stuff here that you're probably able to figure out for yourself. Because you're, oh, why is that turned off? I don't want that. But especially too, I'm going to show you a nifty trick. If you want to find, this is a very long page. There's a lot of stuff that you can set in Zoom. And especially the settings page is very long. But if you want to find something specifically, let's say for sharing screen, go to the find command on your browser, and you can see that that find command is there. And if you just put in a keyword like, say, share, well, there it is, right? Shows Zoom windows during screen share. All of these things will come up, and you'll see all of the occurrences of screen share, and you can see where you can control certain aspects of screen sharing. If you want to say, let's say, find out about alert sounds. Oh, okay, sound. Okay, there it is. It didn't use the word alert sound. It just says play sound. This is very important. Play sound when participants join or leave. So if you turn this on, and you can see that it's been modified from default, it will play a sound when someone goes into the waiting room. Now, I think that's very important, because you've already got a class going. It's 15 minutes in, and you're into, your lecture. That 15 minutes in, you're probably not going to be paying so much attention to the participants list. And even if it's open, you might not notice that there's somebody in the waiting room there for 5 minutes. And they only couldn't get in because, they had to restart their phone, with perfectly innocent reason. But if you play a sound, then you're told constantly by this sound that someone's in the waiting room. If someone joins the conference room, that also plays a sound. Now, that's important when you're in a breakout room. If you're in a breakout room watching a group of 3 or 4, you'll get a sound that says somebody's in the conference room. So maybe somebody left the breakout room to go talk to you, and you should go back to the conference room to do it. It plays a sound when somebody leaves the conference. And you're going, no, well, what happened there? Did they leave because they got bored, or did they leave because they got disconnected? It's a really important thing. So again, I'm not going to go over all of these, okay? But that's a really important one. Play sounds. Another one, let's see. Oh yeah, chat. So let's look for chat. Going to type that in here, C-H-A-T. Chat in French means cat. I love cats. Okay, so chat. I am allowing chat for now until my classes start. But personally, I'm probably going to turn off chat when I start teaching classes, and only turn it on when I think that I'm going to be teaching with colleagues. I can just predict that at some point, some kid is going to say something not inappropriate, but maybe just taken as a joke, that we all know that in on the internet, in forums, stuff that's written in text just cannot be communicated the same way as if you're there face to face. And also too, I'm really bad at watching the chat while I'm teaching. I'm not going to have the benefit of having Phil in my classes to watch my chat for me. Me personally, I'm going to turn that off until I have a pedagogical reason. And I can think of a pedagogical reason. I had one idea where I thought, hey, why don't we have a chat party? And today I'm just going to, I don't have my watch on right now, but I set my watch, 10 minutes. Okay, everybody, here's the topic. The topic is music. Okay, you know the rules. Just start talking on text about music, and the ones who write the most lines of chat get the A's, and the ones who can hit justice minimum, okay, you get the pass grade. But if you want to get a good grade, just go above that and write as much as you can and just enjoy yourselves. And I'm going to watch, and I'll take that chat because chats are auto-saved. I'll see who wrote the most, who wrote clearly, and then who I can compliment, who I can help with, typical sort of grammar mistakes that Japanese people make. Yeah, that's pedagogical reason. But when I'm actually giving instructions, I really can't watch chat. And because I can't monitor it, it's one more sort of place where there might be a problem. And on that note, I will have a very clear set of rules and have an announcement, and I'll make a video of my policies towards cyberbullying, whether in class or outside of class, of any of your friends, especially the ones in this class, sexual harassment, and we will discuss that. I might even make it a topic of conversation, and other inappropriate behavior, like inappropriate virtual backgrounds. Generally, allow virtual backgrounds. If you ask me, Mr. Cruz, I'm in my kitchen, it's the only place where I can work, can I turn on a virtual background? I say, yeah, sure, go ahead. And I'll probably be, go ahead anytime somebody asks me. But I'll tell them, yeah, but no, erotic manga or nothing that, that might make your teacher tell you, turn that off. You know what that means, so keep that in mind. There's a whole bunch of stuff here in settings, and we're running out of time, and I've still got to do a few other things here, but if you got any particular questions, please shoot them in to the chat. Speaking of which, Phil, what do we got for questions so far?
Howdy. So we got quite a bit of questions in our Q&A chat. If you want, Jose, if you want to look in the Q&A button chat, there's a list of questions that are
Q&A. Wow.
Yep.
Okay, what do we got here? How have you set up the meeting today? Okay, Phil, you want to handle that one? Oh, you did handle that one.
Yep. So please look at the open questions, and you'll see all the questions there.
Open. Ah, there it is. Okay, open. Todd Perkins. Okay, I'm going to look like an old man here. Can you recommend the app program that JDC used to video loop on the background? On a Macintosh, iMovie. If anybody else is as good with their Windows computer and can answer that in chat for Todd Perkins, please chat with Todd Perkins and tell him, hey, Todd, I'm not bad with movie editing software, and this thing is for free on Windows. I don't know if I just answered your question, but it's iMovie on a Mac, and the key feature that you want to engage is called picture-in-picture, often use the acronym PIP. So the little bit that I took from my screen grab, I recorded that with QuickTime Player, and I reduced it to a smaller size against a background of a static JPEG image, and ran it was probably about a 12 or 15 second movie as a picture in a picture against a static JPEG background. Okay, now, oh, Andrew, you did make it. Great. What if students are using their available bandwidth on non-educational stuff? It seems 50, yeah, I would say so. I would say that, yeah. But remember, that 50 gigabytes is not your 50 gigabytes. It is theirs. And if they go over it, it is entirely their choice. But it is possible that they'll go over it, especially too, as I said, if teachers literally become selfish, and I've seen this before, they become selfish and say, well, I don't want to change my methods, and I have a whole bunch of PowerPoint slides that are ready, so I'm just going to teach my PowerPoint slides as I have always done, and I'm not going to change anything for emergency remote teaching. And yeah, you know, that's their prerogative. But then their class goes 90 minutes because there's a lot of transitions and a lot of movies in those PowerPoint slides. That 90 minutes isn't just 1.5 gigabytes. It could run 1.8 gigabytes. That's 2 gigabytes a week right there for those students. And, you know, 4.3 weeks in a month. That's could be up to 9 gigabytes just for that class. You know, 20% of their allotment. Something to consider. Now, I personally am concerned about this issue, and also I am concerned about my own mental well-being. I've been hearing stories about other teachers who were forced by their faculty to actually teach all 90 minutes online. And they said, well, we can solve the problem with students' bandwidth by making the students turn off their cameras so it won't use as much. True, but the teacher was freaking out after, you know, 90 minutes because they had to teach another class back to back, and then 4 classes that day. But for the teacher's well-being, unless you're like, oh, you know, a super powerful, super powered human being, I wouldn't suggest that you teach the entire class synchronously. You teach a portion of it synchronously. Me, I'm looking at 20, 25 minutes. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to do that in the next section. And then I'm going to tell the kids, okay, everybody got their homework, you're clear, okay, read the homework up here, okay, and go do it. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to slough off for the other 40 minutes, but it's so much easier to teach a smaller group than it is to try to constantly be doing what I'm doing right now, which is to talk and talk and talk for an hour and a half. So I'm going to tell the kids, okay, so you guys, get out of here. But Kyoka, Shinji, Taro, you guys, it's your turn. You're on the name list today, and come into my waiting room or just wait right there. And it's your turn to chat with me for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'm going to cycle through that name list, make sure that each kid has at least 2 sessions with me. And I figure that if I have 40, 30 minutes extra every class, that I can probably see each kid at least twice. And if some kid is a keener or really just wants to practice English, they say, Mr. Cruz, I really want to, you know, cement my A grade. So can I come and talk to you again? I say, yeah, no problem. I got an open space here. Nobody wants to come there. So come in at that time. So it's basically like my office hours. A lot easier on a teacher's mental health, I think, because most of the time, kids probably, unless they're told to come, probably won't come. So you have time to do your grading and stuff like that. These kids, they don't have to be online all the time. It's you gotta admit to yourself, as animated as you are as a teacher, as good as your teaching was in the classroom, it is less interesting, it is less fun sitting in front of a computer than actually being with your friends. And they're not even with their friends. You know, they're alone. That's not even something that they can use as a motivation to sit through Cruz's class. Well, I don't really like Cruz's class, but it's just before lunch, and everybody in my classroom just suddenly runs off to the convenience store right after this, and that's become part of my week. That's part of their motivation to finish Cruz's class. They don't have that anymore. And you have to have a little bit of empathy and compassion for that, and not pound them too much with stuff like that. Okay, got to go through all these questions. I got a bunch here. Okay.
Hey, Jose, real quickly here, if you want to go ahead and introduce the name of the person that's asking the question, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow them to have the microphone if they want to talk to you in person. I'll unlock them, and then once you're finished, go to the next person. I'll unlock them again.
Excellent, thank you, Phil. So Andrew Meyerhoff, I'm answering your question. Oops, it jumped again. Where did it go?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, you answered that question.
Yeah, it's okay. Does Zoom have features to sharpen contrast or increase the quality of focus? Don't think so. Don't think so. If you enable HD, you're going to get a much bigger picture. But I don't know if the kids need to see that unless you've got really fine PowerPoint slides. And I don't think that's really necessary. But now here's another point that we're going to come on to later. If you're not sure about whether or not your PowerPoint slides are actually legible at lower bandwidths, and you really do have to turn on HD, and you're not sure about your microphone, practice. Get in there, host a Zoom session, ask your friend to come in and say, hey, are these slides legible? Can you actually see those transitions? They're really fine transitions. I don't know if that's, and test it on a phone, test it on a small phone, test it on a Mac, test, practice, practice, practice. So to answer your question, I don't think so, Andrew. You can turn on your mic, Andrew, if you want to follow up, but I don't think so, Andrew, but I'm pretty sure there isn't. But if you just want to, confirm that for yourself, practice, practice, practice. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Andrew?
I think you answered the question very well, Jose. I think it has more to do with the actual, when there's writing that they have to read, whether that writing is eligible. And I think if you're testing it on other people, then you can, overcome it ahead of time. And I think that's a part of it, getting everything prepared ahead of time.
Yeah, it is. So if yeah, sure, no problem. So if I can just, actually, I'm just trying to find my word processor again, but I guess it wasn't in my screen share list. It was because it was hidden. So yeah, so there it is again. Now, you want to make this more legible? Pump that baby. And just make it bigger, bigger and bigger and bigger. And that, I'm pretty sure, was going to be pretty legible. Okay, Andrew, I'm going to skip to the next person here. Joseph Ficor. So is there a comparable program for Windows or Android? Comparable in, Joseph, can you turn on your, when Phil gets you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you did it.
Okay.
Yeah. Joseph, what do you mean a comparable program? You mean for Zoom?
No. What I meant was, okay, I was trying to ask the question when you were talking about like the voice to text program, because you're mentioning a lot of you're mentioning a lot of Apple programs, but I'm more of a Windows kind of person, and so I use Windows and Android devices. I've tried to look for some in the past, but I guess they didn't really pan out very well. But I was just wondering, do you know of any like some simple like example speech to text
to answer your question, no, I don't. If I had the normal facilities available to me, I would think, hey, speech to text, I wonder what that's like on Windows. I'd go to the university and I'd try it out. But I'm surrounded by Apple products here, so I can't. However, that gives a plug to my friend David Juto's Online Teaching Japan site one more time. And I want to plug that site because, again, without that site, Melody would have probably never met me, and we probably wouldn't be here all today. I would join that Facebook group, and I would ask that question there. And there are some people there that are better on Windows than I am on Mac. And they'll know it, or these are the sort of people who will just reach right in and say, well, I don't know, but I want to find out too, so let me do that. And then it's going to benefit me, Joseph, and the rest of the Online Teaching Japan community, because I'm going to post these results. So I would say join the group, post that question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, Jean-Pierre Richard. I don't know if I pronounced that properly or if it's Jean-Pierre Richard, but okay. Was Jose using a second device to show the word processing document, or was he screen sharing from the single device? Single device. Single device.
Thank you.
That was easy. Jackie Talkin. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing people's name. Can you share just the slides with students, but have the presenter view for yourself? Well, now that's a good question, because normally in Keynote, you can have the presenter view plus the screen sharing view. I don't know. I don't know if I want to test that right now, because I'm not really that confident with Keynote. But again, practice. Go ahead. Host your first Zoom meeting. Enjoy. Crash the software. Restart it. Figure out what crashed it. Figure out what you can, what you can't do. Think to yourself, why can't I do that? It should be thinkable. Confirm, pardon me, by going to Online Teaching Japan and asking people, hey, I'm having this experience. Is this the same for everybody else? Or is it just me just screwing things up? And, I'm going to do a whole section on what I call making lemonade, I hope, but we're running out of time on making lemonade. But remember, what we weren't used to using as a digital resource was the internet in all of its glory. Most of us here were JALT members, and we just kept in touch with, you know, the monthly meeting where we all go when we meet our friends and maybe have a cup of coffee or beer after the meeting. But that was just a sort of almost like a one-way communications device. And now if you think about the fact that this one lemon, we're stuck at our home and we're stuck in front of our computers. How do you make lemonade from that? Hey, I've got my computer in front of me. And use that computer to your benefit to ask questions of the online community. And one great online community, I'll say it again, is Online Teaching Japan. Okay, Lance Latham. Where did Lance go?
I'm here.
Yeah, but your question disappeared.
Good question.
Okay, Lance, what was your question?
Yeah, I was wondering if you knew if there's any administration level, like deep level setting that overrides your enable waiting room. Because in my other school, I have it enabled and I have don't join before host, but my students are always there when I get in.
Yeah, that is a setting on the website. Let me see if I can find that for you right now. And I will share screen. And
I've set it up for Niigata University and it's no problem, but I have no idea why this other school just...
Can you see that, Lance? Can you see?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay, good. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So let's look for waiting. There's waiting room. Choose which participants to place in the waiting room. Showing a join browser link, allow live streamings. When attendees join meeting before host, when a meeting is canceled, I'm going to make that more visible. When an alternative, these are email notifications. I'm pretty sure there is one, Lance. It's just that I said it long ago that wait a minute. I'm sure there is one, but right now I can't remember exactly where it is. If it's here in the website or if it's on the app settings themselves, but there is one. And
I'll keep looking around and push buttons. And
one thing though, be careful. If you're using a personal account and an institutional account, remember that if your Zoom is on its institutional account, that you might think, oh, well, I'm going to go log in through Zoom on my personal account. That's not necessarily the case. Logging in one place does not necessarily mean you're logged in on the other place.
I'll double check that.
Yeah, the website's login is separate from the app's login.
Oh, okay.
If you log in on the website as personal Lance, but you were logged in onto your app as institutional Lance, the app will not change until you shut down the app. And vice versa, okay? The website, basically just make sure that you're setting things in the right place by checking which part of Zoom is holding the appropriate profile information.
All right, great, thank you.
Okay, Dominic Marini. Dominic, how are you? Oh, geez, there he went again. Oh, there he is. Okay, Dominic Marini. Could you talk about the instructions you give students about how to join a Zoom? Oh, wow, okay. That's a tough one, and I wanted to talk about that a little bit later because I wanted to talk about how in making Lemonade, I'm going to use a combination of the Moodle LMS that both my universities use and my Facebook strategy. So to make it clear, Dominic, because we might be taking a break just before we get on to the rest of this, if your university has an LMS, they probably want you to use that LMS to a small degree. And if you're forced to use it, you'll probably have to do at least this. You have to tell your students on your LMS as a module or as a weekly assignment, today's Zoom meeting is this. And put in the URL, and then don't publish the password or send that out in email or send that out in a separate place. You keep the password separate from the URL and tell them, use password number 2, and you give them a whole bank of different passwords. And then they know that they click the URL, the password will be prompted and they'll put in the password. But you would use the LMS to tell them this week's Zoom meeting is at this URL. Some people will say, oh, but you don't need to do that because you can use a recurring meeting. I wouldn't suggest a recurring meeting. It's a little bit, it can be quite insecure because basically anyone who knows that recurring meeting URL can jump in. And if a student is stressed out and he plans a bit of a prank with some of his friends and they figure it's not going to be a big deal and they prank that meeting, it's just one more headache to deal with. I would use separate URLs for separate classes, for separate sessions all the time. Okay.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Hi. You did it again. Yeah, I heard you.
Okay. So my concern is that most of the students, probably all the students, have never used the Zoom at all. They're not. They don't know anything about the software itself.
Okay.
So is there anything that you would say that you really must, or you should explain it this way or this point, or that you've had an experience where students didn't understand point something?
Yeah. So what I'm going to show a little bit later on, but I'll try to encapsulate it, is I'm not going to immediately direct them to my Zoom URL. That is a lot to digest, especially for kids on a phone, hard to use. So what these kids are used to is social media. And social media, if you say live stream, then, oh yeah, I watch live streams. I'll watch Beyonce and I've watched Bump of Chicken. I'm going to do a Facebook live stream. And that Facebook live stream URL, okay, that will come through a private group. So I'm going to tell them, here's the private group. I will be doing a live stream from that private group. And that private group itself is something that I hope that they'll be able to get into. If not, okay, if it doesn't seem like the kids have all registered on the private group, as I'll mention, I'm touching my face.
Don't touch your face.
Thank you. It's okay, I washed my hands. So I'm going to look at that list in the Facebook private group and say, yeah, looks like a good 10% still haven't signed up. So I'm going to put that again in the LMS. Okay, my first live stream will come from the main page, which is an open group. Anybody can access it. They don't have to be in the private group. And there's the URL, and I'll do a live stream from there. And I'll show you all of this later. But basically, I think I've got my bases covered, and I don't have to show them Zoom until I know that they're in a private space, and I can see in chat that Taro says that he can't still figure out where the password is put into. And then from the live stream, get into Zoom, and then everybody's in Zoom, and then we can do those small chat sessions that I was talking about earlier.
And have you done that?
No. See, this is where it's kind of scary.
Yeah, because suppose some students aren't on Facebook.
Now that's an interesting question. But can we hold that question, Dominic, until a little bit later? Because I want to get into it a little bit later then. But I have an answer for that question.
Okay, I'll just have to wait. But please get into it sooner.
I will.
It's such a basic issue.
It is. It's an important issue. Okay. So
Can I just jump in for a second?
Melody.
I just want to say, I think Leslie Ito prepared a PowerPoint presentation that you can download from the OTJ, Online Teaching in Japan website, that she uses to teach children. And there's another sheet with English and Japanese translations of functions from Zoom. Also, you can download it.
Also, too, Dominic,
yes.
As soon as I'm finished with like the really important part of setting up my LMS at my universities, I'm going to be making a series of videos with me speaking in Japanese, telling kids to do the things that I need them to do to get to the bigger part of my digital classes. And I will be posting those both on, on my personal timeline, where I think you're a friend of mine, aren't you, on Facebook?
I'm not, well, I think I have a Facebook account, but I don't use it. I haven't been there for 2 or 3 years. Yeah, okay, no problem. But I will be putting it on my Facebook. I'll probably be putting it on my YouTube. So there's a bunch of places that you can go. What's your social media network of choice, Dominic? Line. I got Line because my students told me to use Line. Yeah, I got a thing to talk about with Line and why I'm insisting on Facebook. But it's all part of the other thing. I didn't want to jump too far ahead. But I will cover it, okay? Okay. And those videos, I'm going to make them available, if nothing else, on Facebook. Okay? Okie doke. Thank you very much.
Want to just go over these last two questions real fast. Okay. Three. Michael Hora. Michael Hora asks, could you please talk about using Facebook groups for students to post-react to video speaking assignments if there is time? There will be time, Michael Hora, because that is actually a big chunk of things that I want to talk about. So I'm going to.
Nice.
Okay, great. Eli Pappas. Eli Pappas, does Zoom have a blackboard option? No, they do not have a blackboard option. They have a whiteboard option. I don't know if you saw that part earlier, Eli, but I'm going to share my screen. Here is the whiteboard. So you can imagine that whiteboard. Now,
yes, I saw that before.
Right.
Can that whiteboard be changed into a black background with white fonts?
Don't think so.
Okay. But you can use your word processor to do the same.
Yeah, you can use that word processor. And if you were so inclined, you could put a black background and use white text on it.
Yeah, there's a particular reason why I asked that is because some of my students, they have a lot of trouble reading black font on a white background. But if you switch the colors, they can read like a green or a white font on a dark background.
Is there a particular reason why? Are they like, there's an affliction going on or something?
It's a bit of a stigma that people don't talk about it, but it's usually dyslexia.
Ah. Wow, I never realized that.
And some of my kids have difficulty this way, and some of my kids use like a transparent colored sheet to try and help them read better because it clears the font for their eyesight and they can get their work done without the challenge of blurriness or movement.
And again, that's usually from dyslexia?
Yes, there's many different manifestations, but white background and black font is usually the culprit. It's quite difficult for students to read. Like wow, some of them.
That's really enlightening. Thank you.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all.
Tell you what, if I have time, maybe I can show you. I can probably figure it out how to do it. Do you have a Mac?
Yes, I do.
Okay, maybe I can show you later because I'm actually quite prepared. If we go over time today, and if Melody and Phil and the others are prepared, I'm quite prepared to go over time today. If the questions stretch out and people want to keep talking, and I take more time than I thought to cover, and obviously I am going to take more time than I thought to cover my stuff. So, and last question from Andrew Meyerhoff. Hi, sorry for another question. How do you increase student interaction through breakouts? Going to talk about that later. More interactive and more time efficient. Isn't it less teacher-centered as well? How do you break out and come back together? Andrew, I'm going to take it that you've never done breakout rooms.
No, I haven't.
Okay, then you know what? Because I think you wouldn't have this question if you have. Are you prepared to use Zoom in your classes coming into?
Yes. Well, in the future, I'm planning to use Zoom. And I'm quite happy with Zoom, but, it just seems to me that, if you have a regular class, it's going to be very interactive. You have pair work, you have group work, you have more student interaction. It's less teacher-centered.
Yep.
And, how are you going to translate that physical experience into like an online experience?
So the best advice I can give you is I've been giving this advice through the day. For those of you who have not yet cranked up Zoom, crank it up. Become a host. Call your friends. Tell them, listen, I need your help. And if you can't find some friends to help you so that you can all practice breakout rooms. Again, Online Teaching Japan, go in there, say that, hey, anybody who wants to help me practice my Zoom skills and breakout rooms, can I get 3 or 4 people to come at this time? And then you're going to learn how to post an invitation. You're going to learn a bunch of stuff because now you're going to be responsible for doing that. You're going to find out almost all of the answers to these questions, Andrew, because you will have actually, put your feet into the water. So if you haven't put your feet into the water, just jump in.
Okay, it's an excellent answer. Okay, thanks a lot. Appreciate that. No
problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Oh, Joel Laurier. Andrew Meyerhoff, great question. And as Jose mentioned, breakout rooms will give you that sense of community. I believe it will too. All righty, I'm going to turn off my screen share here. I didn't realize I was screen sharing all that time. Really sorry. That's actually another point. you will forget sometimes that your screen share is on. But as much as you can, try not to leave the screen on screen share for too long. Even right now, probably, well, I don't know. It depends on whether or not you've got me full screen or not. Even right now, this screen does not convey what is the value of an entire human teacher's capacity to communicate and teach, even though it's big on your screen, especially if your screen is only the size of a phone. But if your image entirely disappears because you've got slides playing for 30 minutes at a time, or just like this idiot forgot that he was screen sharing, the kids will see you as a little image in the corner, but more and more they're going to become distracted and detached from whatever you're trying to convey emotionally with your gestures or whatever you're trying to do on screen. So I'm going to show you one more thing. And then Phil, Melody.
Yes.
Would it be all right if we took just a quick break? Like
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I had a big glass of milk before this started.
Go to the toilet. Take a toilet break, everybody. How's 10 minutes, 5 minutes? How long do you like?
Let me just do this one thing.
Okay.
And give people a chance to think about something. And then that'll take about 5 minutes, and then we can go for the break. And that'll put us at the break right at 3:30, and then we can come back 3:35 or so.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay, so let me just show you this one thing. So how to prevent, during a screen share, your image being only that tiny little corner of a screen, especially if you've got a big screen like this iMac, you become this tiny little part of the screen. Not so bad on an iPhone. It's actually, relatively speaking, you're a big part of the screen. But here's what I did to solve it. Okay, so some of these windows might have moved around, but I'm going to screen share my whiteboard again. I'm sorry, I'm going to screen share my desktop again. So then you can see what I'm doing. If I start sharing only parts of it right away, you're not going to be able to see what I'm trying to do very well. So I'm going to get rid of Q&A. I'm going to hide my, my Safari. And there's my whiteboard as it's situated on my screen. And number one, you should situate that whiteboard, if you're going to use that whiteboard, in a way so that then your eyes, see, I'm looking right now where it says, this is page 1. And you can see that my eyes on my camera are just a little bit to my left. But then when I come back to the camera, and if I'm mindful enough to remember that I have to look at the lens, I can look at the lens, but I'm not that far from looking at the lens when I go over there. But if I put my whiteboard, for convenience's sake, down towards the bottom of my screen, now I'm looking at my whiteboard down here, and you become a little bit more distant. It's a very, very small thing, but if you can, try to keep your whiteboard in a position so your eyes don't look like you are looking at a very, very far thing. Now, the next trick that I'm going to show you, you can all see my screen, so you can see that I'm searching down in my dock for my FaceTime preview. FaceTime is Apple's proprietary version of Skype. You've all heard of FaceTime. It's in the lexicon. But this, when you start it up on a Mac, starts up like this. Starts up as an app that takes the camera and shows you your contacts on the side. So number one, be careful. If you're going to be using FaceTime the way I use it, don't show all of your contacts. Make sure that your missed list, these are the missed phone calls that you have. And because these are missed, and you've probably already taken care of that, that you start removing these things from recents, okay? And that you don't end up showing everybody's phone numbers. Now you're not giving up any private information, and what you can do is this. Tile all of this, and tile means position. Position all of this so that it's right next to your word processor. Now, your image is much bigger. It is right next to your word processor. And when you come here, if you forget to look at the lens, a human being's first instinct is to look at another human being, even if it's themselves. And you look more like you're actually looking at the students, especially if you try to sort of think, oh, here's a student here, here's a student there. But best way to look is to look at the lens. But at least now for the students, you're bigger. They can see you, and you're right next to the whiteboard. So this is the way that I use FaceTime. Unfortunately, I haven't come across any other video software that will preview in a horizontal orientation. Moreover, FaceTime shows its preview without any edges, without any borders. So for example, if I started up Skype, it does have a video preview if you wanted to do something like what I'm doing here. But if you look at Skype's video preview, once I get it going here, come on, bring me in. Okay, it's video preview. You've got to go to preferences here. And the preview is there, but it's horizontal, and it's got all of this extra space around it. So it ends up being visible. And it's much smaller. You can't really make it bigger, right? Well, with FaceTime, the FaceTime preview, you can make this as small or as big as FaceTime will allow. Now, to compound that, how do you make that even better? Remember before I was saying don't share your entire screen if you don't have to. So let me just test something here. I'm going to go to my conference window. I'm going to see, I'm currently screen sharing. I'm going to see if I can actually interrupt this share with a different kind of share. But I got to show you something anyway. There is a set of tabs up here that most people probably don't even notice. That there is basic screen sharing where you have all these things where you can share your phone, which I think is really cool. You can share the whiteboard, you can share apps. But there's also advanced screen sharing, and for some of you, files, where you can share from Box, Google Drive, Microsoft Online. If you do not have that Files tab, that's because you don't have an institutional version or a paid version. The free version will not allow you to share files from there. There is a file sharing option in the chat box, but it's a little bit more limited. But everybody has basic and advanced. In advanced, the top left corner of advanced is sharing a portion of your screen that you can decide. So I'm going to show you that after I show you what it looks like. So I'm going to kill this share. What it looks like is this. If I was to click that share screen button, I'm going to move some things here. And I got to move this because this is completely in my way too. You would get something like this. I'm going to show you a picture of my desktop when I did this before. And what you would get is that advanced screen button. Okay, we've already seen that. But once you click that, your screen will get this big green border around it. See that big green border? And you can move that border, you can position that border in any way that you like. When you do move it around, okay, oops, or no, that's not the right one. That's not the one that I wanted. When you do move it around, it will turn into an orange color. And that's telling you that your screen share is paused and it's being adjusted, and the audience can't actually see what's in this orange area right now, but that's because Zoom is rebuffering the entire area. So I'm going to do that here right now, okay? I'm going to go to screen share and a portion of the screen. I'm going to see if this will actually, yeah, it did. It took over for it. Okay. Phil, can you see just my word processor in my preview now?
That is correct. I can see you and your word processor on the side.
Okay. And you can also see that now you can't see the thumbnails to my word processor. And if I was to actually make this even more compact, you wouldn't be able to see my, oops, I got to move this down. You wouldn't be able to see my top controls for my word processor. But that actually gets in the way because sometimes if you want to actually grab text or a chart or a shape, that area, that brown area gets in the way. So I actually make it so that the, whoops, the border itself, oh, sorry, is showing the text and the chart and the table buttons. Make sure that the word processor is on top of that extraneous information in FaceTime. And now you've got your whiteboard, plus you've got a bigger image of yourself. Makes the student feel a little bit closer to you. Your gestures become more obvious. And I think, to me, this is the way that I'm going to try to go a lot if I think that I'm going to be screen sharing a lot. But I try not to screen share too much because I'm not even going to be mostly in most of my synchronous work much longer than 20 or 30 minutes at a time. Okay, so everybody, that was what I wanted to talk about before the break. How about we take a 5-minute break? Looks like we can come back. Melody, Phil, come back at 3:40?
Yep, 3:40. That's perfect, 3:40.
And everybody can think of any questions that they might have for what I just showed, and then I can answer those questions before we jump into the last part.
Done. Let's do that.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
We'll be back at
Thank you,
3:40.
everyone. Let's take a bit of a break. We'll be back at 3:40.
Thanks for coming today, everybody. And I've been looking at your positive comments in the comments in the chat, and I'm really happy that you're satisfied with this so far.
All right, cool. So we're back once again at 3:40. Again, thank you everyone for joining. This is a webinar. It's another setting in Zoom. It's a paid feature that allows us to do this kind of style of workshop. It's a little different than hosting a meeting. A general meeting doesn't have breakout rooms. Attendees, we're not able to see them in their videos. Some other different functions that if people are interested, maybe later I can go ahead and perhaps host some kind of workshop. You can see what a webinar admin looks like. It's a bit interesting feature. So yeah, that's about it. Let's see here.
I got time for one question, maybe. Do we have any questions?
Let's see here. You can go ahead and answer Dominic's question. I can get.
I will get that for you,
Jean-Pierre's.
Dominic. I got a second here. I'm going to go straight to my Facebook, and I'm going to bring up Online Teaching Japan, and I will get you the URL because I'm sure a bunch of people want to grab in there. Phil, do we have the results from the other polls? Check the chat. Check the chat now, Dominic. Sorry, Phil.
I haven't done the poll yet for the other two questions. Would you like me to post them now?
Yeah, why not? That's
right.
That would be a good thing for people to sort of walk into their chairs.
Do you want to do the second one or the third one?
Why don't you throw them both up?
Okay. Let's see here. Let me throw poll number 3 up. What aspect of ERT concerns you the most? Let's throw that up there. So I'm going to put up a poll on your screen shortly. This should be multiple choice, I think.
Yeah, choose as many as you like.
Let me make sure this is multiple choice. That's not multiple choice. Okay, let me fix that. There we go. All right, so go ahead and vote. You can go vote more than one. We'll start right now. And
Jean-Pierre, Richard, your question about the webinars is part of an institutional account. Yeah, you have to have literally better than a paid account. You have to go to the next level up, an institutional account. Let me answer these for myself.
Yeah, yeah. With the panelist account, or with the panelist, with webinar account, if one person has it, they can host it for any other teacher that wants to run a workshop.
And remind me again, Phil, how I see the results for that. Oh, that's right. You've got to turn off the poll.
Yep. So people are still going in. Got about 37% in.
Got it.
You have to vote too.
I did.
Okay.
I wrote the question, so I actually knew what my answers were. Don't worry, it's just water.
All right.
And
we're about a minute in. Got about 57% in. Let's see what the questions are.
Did you, I should check chat.
There's a lot in the chat.
Okay, so Dominic, did you get that URL for Facebook? You're probably going to have to crank up your Facebook account to actually search for that.
Sorry, he's not done. He's not available.
Oh, so he's probably not in there.
All right, I'm gonna close the poll in 15 seconds here. Looks like we got just about everyone.
Wow, there's a ton of stuff here that but that's normal. I shouldn't talk. Not everybody's here.
All right, so let's go ahead and end it. Here's the results. Go ahead and take a look.
A lot of stuff worry people. I'm going to be very honest. I checked them all. I thought of all the things that I'm worried about, and I thought, probably everyone's worried about this too. But the one that's biggest is student reception. Yeah, that made my first answer, because that probably is too the thing that I'm worried about the most. And should we officially consider ourselves back then, Phil? Melody?
Yes, go ahead.
And
student reception. One question. This looks like John has raised his hand. I'm going to test this feature out. So go ahead and.
Sure.
John, you're on the board. If you want to answer the question, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I put a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, John.
Okay. Well. Okay. I sorry. There's a Zoom meeting going on on the other side of the table too. My question is, I want to use the raise hand feature for getting students to volunteer to answer questions, but normally when I do it in a normal classroom, each question is separate, and I just look around the classroom to see who's raised their hand. If they raise their hands online, can I put their hands down so that they have to raise them again?
Yeah, that setting, John, doesn't even have to go into the website, because raising hands is already a feature that's set as the default. So what you can do to lower their hand if they don't, okay, the button for raise hand, if you click that and you raised your hand, will then change to lower hand. And if they don't lower their hand, you as the admin can go to their name on the participants list, and I believe also their avatar, this is an avatar, by the way, my avatar is waving its hands right now. You can go to their avatar, and I believe in the ellipsis menu, that 3-dot menu, the ellipsis menu, you can also lower their hand from there. But definitely, it's in the participants list. There's a selection there to lower their hand from there.
Okay, but you have to do it individually.
Afraid so.
Okay. Well, normally there's
as far as I know, actually, everything that I know about Zoom is from a lot of experience. But remember, I'm not one of the guys that wrote the code. And too, I was taken by Zoom a couple of times when I said, no, you can't do that. And then the next day, they changed the code. They literally changed the code for some feature. And I said, no, you can't do that. And then 2 days later, you could do that. And I had been telling people, no, you can't do that. And now, no, suddenly you can do that. And I feel like a fool. So take everything that I'm saying here with a grain of salt. Look for yourself, but I'm pretty sure you can.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll make that recommendation to Zoom, say make it a whole lot easier for teachers if we can lower their hands so they have to raise them again.
It's not a bad feature, actually.
Yeah, it's not no. Okay, great. Thanks.
Thank you. And Linda, I'm going to answer your questions. Linda Cadota. My students have the raise hand icon, but I don't have it on my Zoom. How can I get it? Okay, you should have it. It should be there. Where it is on the participants list. So this is right now.
Looked.
I'm sorry, Linda?
I've looked and looked.
So you looked in the participants window?
Yes.
Okay, so first tell me, what kind of account are you using?
Free.
Okay, so just completely free, not associated with an institution of any kind?
No.
Okay.
I'm using my institution address only.
Okay, now hang on. So this account came from the institution then?
No. It's just I created it.
Okay, so this is your account. This
Yes.
is your personal email. Okay,
Yes.
and it's free, right? You didn't pay.
Yes.
Okay, so I set this setting a long time ago, and I tend to forget this stuff because there's so much coming. But if it is not available, it'll be in the website settings. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. Did you look there?
Yes.
Okay.
And all my students have the raised hand.
Oh, you're wondering why you as a teacher doesn't have
Yes.
Because, Linda, you're the teacher.
Okay.
You don't have to raise your hand to ask yourself a question.
Okay.
But it's okay. You're laughing at yourself right now. That was me. The very first time I was looking at, hey, how come I don't have a raise hand button? Then I realized, because I'm the host. And the
okay, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
There you go. One more thing on that note. If you go into the website settings and you look under, I believe, room reactions, ROOM, reactions, reactions, and you search under room reactions, you can get other room reactions besides applause and thumbs up and raise hand. You can get yes, no as a button, separate buttons, yes or no. And you can actually get a thumbs down button, which is, well, might not be that dangerous because kids might not even find it. But you can get some extra room reactions that might be useful, like a yes, no button, raise hand button, coffee break button, stuff like that. Cute, might be useful, but I only want it for the yes, no feature. Okay, let's go on. Melody, Phil, I said before, quite in a one-way matter, that it's okay with me if we go over time, but you guys get final word on that.
That's fine with me.
Yep, I'm definitely okay on the background here, just looking at all the different stuff here.
My colleagues are stalwarts. Thank you very much. And if you, oh gosh, if you do have to go, if you've got, I'm talking to the attendees, if you do have to go, but you got a question, drop it into the Q&A, and we're being recorded. So I'll try to answer it, and you can pick up the recording later on, and maybe find, maybe I'm going to try to answer everyone's questions before we completely end today. So
Yep.
you got to go. Make sure that you leave your question at least.
So when you leave the webinar, there will be a post survey in your email that you click on and go ahead and answer it. Hopefully, in addition, Jose will have his email. I believe it's in the email settings as well. When you look at it, if you want to ask more questions. And then my email's on there too if you have additional questions as well.
Okay, so last section that I wanted to talk about was about making lemonade. Although these are kind of recurring themes throughout, what I'm talking about, empathy and compassion is a recurring theme. The digital stage is very different from your physical classroom. I find myself much more animated. And I think I'm more animated because I can see myself. Because I can see myself, I tend to want to use my hands more, but all of those things. And the next little chunk is more along the idea of, like, how can we take advantage of this situation? It's not a great situation, but there are things that we can do. Well, for one thing, as I was mentioning before, now that we're in front of our computers, we've got our computers in front of us. That's a good thing, if you want to think of it that way. And one of the first things that I thought about is now, instead of Mark Zuckerberg and Twitter, and, well, again, Mark Zuckerberg, Instagram, using us to make him rich, we can use the fact that he got himself rich by us by using his social media network as a quasi-LMS or a quasi-teaching system. Let me show you how I did it, or how I think I want to do it. And I don't know if it's going to win. It might fail, but at least let me tell you my ideas. And I would actually like to hear what everyone's ideas are. You think, no, Jose, that's going to fail because of this. And I go, oh my God, I never thought of that. Thank you very much. Okay. Actually, no, I can't make it that big because, again, I've got to share this. Sorry, everyone. All righty. I'm going to do a bit of a screen share here. And this time, I'm going to just share just the app itself. And here we are. Okay. This is OTJ, so you know you've come to the right place if you're searching for it, because it has that banner. Now, me personally, my home screen looks like this, and my profile looks like this. If you've never used Facebook before, there are some people who haven't. Dominic hasn't used it in years. It might have changed. But when you go to the home screen, up here, the button that says Home, you'll probably be given a list of the groups that you've already joined, or even if you use groups a lot, you're going to be given a list of the groups that you have managed to pin shortcuts to the top. And I'm going to show you this one that I've got at the very top. I made a Facebook group very similar to what OTJ is. It's basically a Facebook group, but it's a public group, so everybody can see it. And what it is a place where all of my students, whether they're a member of the group or not, can see all of the contents. But the contents are going to be very limited. And the name of it is called 2020 Goldfish. So this is a page that I can put on my Moodle or my WebEx or whatever LMS the university is doing. If you're going to have to send it out by email, shoot this out as a URL. It has its own URL here. Okay. And send that out to the students. And what I expect them to do here, okay, first, let me back up. So let me assume that I'm dealing with Dominic. I would put this URL here on the university's LMS. If they do not have an LMS, then whatever way that you're contacting your kids via line or by email, send that out and said, on 10:30 on May 8th, Friday, please come to this page and I will be doing a live stream and I will introduce myself and tell you the next set of things that you need to do. Okay? Now, that live stream will be a Facebook live stream, so you don't have all of these Zoom things like virtual backgrounds and screen sharing. But I intend for that live stream to only be about 20 minutes, 30 minutes at a time. And that live stream primarily is just to get them through this first set of instructions. And I chose a Facebook live stream because most kids are familiar with the idea of a social media live stream. They know what to expect. But some of you are thinking, hey, but kids don't, you know, any kid, Japanese kid, American kid, they hate Facebook. Facebook is for old people like us. Now, to me, that's actually a feature, not a bug. Number one, I use Facebook more than I use, actually, you know what? I'm going to do this now. I'm going to share this screen again. And stop share, come back. Stop share. I'm going to share the screen so that then, because I realize I'm going to be talking a lot, so I'm going to go to my advanced mode. And I'm going to do this. Oops. And I'm going to share a portion of the screen so that you can see. Okay. And I'm going to get this out of the way so then that isn't too distracting. You'll end up seeing me in 3 places. It's a feature. It's not a bug. Kids might not be at all averse to saying, hey, give me your line and then we can communicate over line. They might even get off on that. Hey, cool, I'm going to get teacher's line. And I like line and it's so much easier for me to use. Great. This teacher, he's really hip. He's really hip. Did I say hip? This teacher's really cool. He knows how to use line. Some students, and I can imagine even one out of the 200 I'm probably going to be in charge of this year is going to go, oh, he asked for my line. Oh, and now he's going to be able to see my timeline. Oh, I don't know. And if you consider, again, the whole principle of empathy and compassion, that should guide you. If one student has a bit of trepidation, you should maybe consider that student's feelings. If there is another way for you to achieve exactly the same thing. And this is what I thought. Well, yeah, maybe they don't want to give me their Instagram. Instagram is gold to these kids. They don't want to give me their Twitter. Twitter is where, like, you know, they really talk with each other. And sometimes it's, some of the things in there are almost, well, not for teachers' eyes because they talk about teachers there. But Facebook, they hate Facebook. They don't have a Facebook account. Thus, if I ask them to make a Facebook account, they don't have any private thoughts there unless they actually are using Facebook. They don't have any of their photographs there. And even if they do have a Facebook account, you're not necessarily going to be friends with them. You're just asking them to make an account, okay? And they just have to join this private group. They don't necessarily have to be your friend. If you connect with them online, they are immediately your friend. Well, no, wait. In a line, Phil or Melody, correct me if you know, on a line group, do we have to be friends in line for a person to join a line group? I don't think so, right?
That I'm not sure of, I'm sorry.
Okay, actually, I think I'm going to correct myself. I'm pretty sure that if you make a line group, that line group does not necessarily need everybody to be friends. It's a separate group, but it's the way that you make the line group. Anyway, you want to allow them to keep their privacy. And if you immediately become their line friend, I don't want to say they're compromising their privacy, but now you're their line friend, and all that entails. Facebook, you have less of that. All that you need to do is make sure that you tell them, okay, you got to go to Facebook and you got to make an account. Now, if you don't want to put your photos in there, I don't blame you. Don't put your photos on there. You don't want to put in and I don't put my real location in my Facebook. Don't do that. Don't give up any of your private information. It's important. You could actually have an entire class on how to protect yourself online. I have. But all you need to do is make that account, go to this page, the one right here, 2020 Goldfish, and get ready for my live stream. Now, let's say it's the day of the live stream. They're all there, and maybe I'll encounter some problem, some kid. Mr. Cruz, I tried making a Facebook account, but something went wrong. And I'll say, well, it's okay. I'm going to have a recording of this, because the nice thing about a live stream, whether it's YouTube or Facebook, it's automatically recorded. I'm doing a live stream record right now. It's automatically recorded, and it will be posted automatically as well, too. So they come here, and I tell them, now that you're on this page, hang on, excuse me, I gotta call up Safari. Now that you're on this, whoa, this sometimes happens because if I talk too much, okay, are we good? Yeah, we are, okay, good. If I talk too much and too long, the screen buffer freezes, and then it takes a second to actually start up again. And you'll hear like an alert sound telling you that you can't click inside the window. Give it maybe about 3 or 4 seconds when you're doing a share portion of the screen like this, and it'll probably come back. You come down, and all of the other individual Facebook groups that I've made for these students are now listed chronologically by days of the week. Monday 3rd comes before Monday 5th. Afterwards is Tuesday's classes, Wednesday's classes, all the way down to Friday's classes. Tell them, find your class and go to that URL, not the picture. If you click the picture, you're just going to get the picture. So go to that URL, click the URL, okay, and make sure you're not going to see it here because I'm already a member, but there's going to be around here a great big button that says click to join. And that is all that they will see. They will see nothing else of this because it's a private group. If you are not a member of the group, you cannot see who the members are. You cannot see any content within the group. If you make it a public group, everybody can see everything. But that's why when you first go to Online Teaching Japan, if you don't click to join, you can't see anything in there. And once you join and you're vetted, you will be able to join. So these kids, if they're in the group, they can see everybody's stuff. If they're not in the group, their privacy is protected from people who are not within their class. And I've made one for every class that I have this coming semester. Now let me show you what I actually do with it. This is an empty class because Thursday 5th period hasn't started, and it's identified by their school name and their class day and the class period, 5th period. But I'm going to show you something else that I did. And when I talk about how, hey, you got to get your feet wet with Zoom and you got to practice. What I thought to myself was, I was talking with a couple of kids, my ex-students online, and even before I started Zoom, I was asking, so how are you guys doing? Everybody okay? And you're probably lonely, stuck in your apartment. And yeah, Mr. Cruz, we don't know what's going to happen with school. And we would talk, on semi-personal sort of level. And I felt bad for these kids. And then I realized, hey, I got to get ready for ERT. I got to get good with these tools. So I offered these kids, why don't you let me teach you for free English once a week? And I'm going to try out this software. I'm going to try out these techniques. So if you've got 3 or 4 kids and you haven't yet, and there are probably not many of us, but if you haven't yet learned Zoom, call up a couple of your kids who are cooperative. Tell them, I want to try this with you. Let's try breakout rooms. Tell me what you thought of those breakout rooms. Did you like the way I looked? Did I sound okay? All of those things with real students can really get you miles. It got me miles. So the name of the class that I made for those kids was called Happy Class. And they actually seemed to like that name. And I'm going to show you what I've got in here. So we meet every Friday morning. And I'm going to show you from the very bottom, because it goes in reverse chronological order, what we've been up to. So I first made the group Happy Class. Then I would start sharing. Here, you can do anything that you're used to doing on Facebook. You can share YouTube videos. You can share posts from other places. You can put up your status. You can ask questions. You can have a live stream. You can have a watch party. All of these things are here. This is a YouTube video. And the girls and I, they were all girls. The girls and I were talking about cooking because they all like cooking, and I do too. And I found out they don't really know how to make carbonara. And probably you don't either. Italians never put cream or milk in their carbonara sauce. And you can feel good if you knew that. But the girls that I was talking to is, why don't they? Because the carbonara has cream in it. No, that's ridiculous. It's cheese, and it's garlic, and it's salt and pepper, and it's eggs, and that's it. And so this YouTube video, I'll play a bit of it. The nice thing about it, it's got closed captions.
無料動画で英語がペラペラ? 今話題のケンペナイングリッシュがすごい.
Okay, so it's got captions.
I am Antonio Carluccio. Welcome to my kitchen.
From YouTube.
I show you how to make the real carbonara. Most of the people, they get it wrong, and I will show you why. Now, this is boiling water to which we add in the ratio of 10 grams per liter of water.
You can bring the whole world to them now. It is not just your voice. Of course, you could do this in your physical classroom too, but wouldn't you admit it was a lot more of a bother because you have to turn on the projector, you have to get your computer hooked up, sometimes the speakers didn't work, but now you're at your computer, you can set all of that before class begins. Let's go back. So that was a YouTube video, and I told them we're going to discuss that, so they watched it, we discussed it, we had a really good time. And sometimes they'll send me things like, oh, Mr. Cruz, this is the 4 of them. And one of them took a picture of the 4 of them working together in breakout rooms. And she thought, wow, this is so cool. I'm going to take a picture and send it to Mr. Cruz. And I posted it. And then that afternoon, I made carbonara and I posted it. And other things too, sort of frivolous stuff. This is, I hesitate to show you this video because they're not my students anymore and they're more mature. They're 4th year, 3rd year students. And this is a video of an Australian who's famous for using the F word. And I wanted to show them an Australian accent and how people speak in authentic English when they're using profanities. Then I showed them my own website, etc., etc. Everything that Facebook can do. That YouTube video that I recommend to you, I showed it to them. And then here we start seeing examples of how I can use it for pedagogical reasons. Told them, leave a text comment underneath. And I would make a comment under their comment. They would comment under my comment naturally. I didn't have to tell them to do that. And it just becomes more communicative. It becomes much more natural. And little by little, they've started becoming used to what they could do on the page. Now, here's a live stream. This was me cooking in my kitchen because, again, we all like to cook. And they would comment on it, and I would comment on them. Live streams are posted automatically. They're great for that. Here's another thing with the same guy. Now this time he's making packet soup, and I told them, give me a text comment, and you can see what she wrote. Yeah, that's what I could hear, Now, other things, pictures. This is Michelle Obama reading the Gruffalo. So the benefit of this is that it's slower for them. Again, it's got closed captions, and they can hear how an English-speaking adult reads books to kids. Easier for them to understand, easier for them to shadow talk. It's actually a cultural thing because reading to kids is actually a thing that they probably never heard of before. And then they start doing video comments. So what I did was I posted this video from the CBC.
Last Friday on CBC News Network, Rosemary Barton interviewed Dr. Nadia Allam. Dr. Allam is an anesthesiologist in Ontario who shared this tweet after a long night of treating patients with COVID-19, including one elderly man who didn't want to be on a ventilator.
He turned to me and said, if I die from this, I would rather die looking at the sky. I would rather die talking to my family. And so...
So let's cut it there. And I said, well, girls, we got to talk about this sometime. What do you think of that? Oh, it throws up on me. So if you play video or something that requires a screen buffer, a lot of screen buffer, sometimes the screen will pause and you've got to work to kick it back into use. Right now, I'm clicking on this and it's okay. Now it's functioning again. And I told them, this time, I want you to leave a video comment. Now, this time the video comment was a little harder than text. You don't have as much time to talk and you're much more conscious of the way that you appear. And it's its own challenges, but they all rose to the occasion. They did really well. I don't need to play all of these, but I want to show you what I did. So they would have their video comment. Okay, first, I showed them what I expect as a video comment. So I made my own video comment. I'm going to be doing a video of myself at home so I can show you as a model what I expect when I say, you leave a video comment under this post. So always demonstrate. Don't just tell them, leave a video comment. Don't assume. You can assume that they know how to use their camera, but it's probably not half of our students that have actually used it to make a movie, a selfie, sure. An Instagram story, sure. But addressing the camera and having a message that you prepared to make a video, they probably haven't done. And you could tell that they weren't used to it. And the important thing that I think I want to show is that I then made a reply using video to their video comment. And I didn't go, oh, but your grammar is this. Oh, your pronunciation is that. I spoke to them as if we were communicating to each other, because that's eventually what I want them to do for each other. Video comment, then student's video reply to another student's video comment. Make it communicative, make it reach out. Don't harp on English all the time. The next one was another live stream that I did, more live streams that I did. We're going to be talking about saving money, investing in the stock market, articles from Psychology Today that I think is relevant. Now, we also did writing assignments. So this is an article that one of the students found. She posted it on Facebook, and I said, okay, if you remember, let me just kill this share so I can come back here and bring up the original screen share virtual background where I was talking about this. And if you remember this homework assignment that I outlined for them, this was the set of rules that they used to do their handwriting. So 30 minutes, use a dictionary. It's got to be handwritten. I want you to learn how to handwrite your English. Okay, you got to learn how to write fast. Don't use the internet. Don't use anything but a dictionary. 30 minutes. When the 30 minutes is up, lift your pen just like it's a writing test and take a picture of that, submit it to me immediately, okay, within that time on the due date. Submit a photo, and that photo, I'm going to go back to first turn off my virtual background, and that photo is here. These are all the photos that they sent. Okay. Now, two of them sent their photos. Sorry, three of them sent their photos. One of them made a mistake about sending a photo, but it was okay. It was the very first time. She didn't quite understand the instruction. Now, the photo is important because it shows you that they actually did do the handwriting. And then I tell them, okay, pardon me again. They do the photo. Then the next assignment is to send that back up into Google Docs. And I show them how to use Google Docs, and I show them how to do peer editing. So before I go into their work, they can help each other and use the grammar checker and say, I don't understand that sentence. What are you trying to say? And all that stuff they can do at peer level. Then we go on to instructor level editing. We do that with articles. I'm telling them, and by the way, everybody here, don't forget, apply for your 100,000 yen. I know I will. We're doing more video commenting. And this time, this was a really cute video from the dodo. I love animals. And this was a really cute, I'll play a little bit of this.
Charlie, I'm going to tell you my favorite story. Our story. Emma and Charlie. My name is Emma. I'm 5 years old. And this is my dog. Her name is Charlie.
Really cute. And the girls are going, oh, so cute. And they were loving it. But it's also good because they can hear a child's voice. They normally only hear adult voices from their instructors or from their TOEIC CDs. They can hear that sort of sing-songy that kids tend to do. And captions, again, very easy to understand, and just so many more opportunities to bring in all kinds of different material. There's a really big lemon here, okay? And it can make a lot of lemonade. And that's the fact that you're in front of your computer and they're seeing your computer with you, and you're there with your keyboard, you're there with your trackpad controlling all of it. This is a private group. This is the way that I intend to use it. I think a private group, these kids are used to social media. Yeah, they don't have Facebook, but they'll get used to it very quickly. 2 of these girls didn't have Facebook, but they got used to it very quickly. Moodle, they told me that, yeah, you know, we used to use Moodle in other classes. I'm going to turn off the screen share. We used to use Moodle in other classes, but we didn't like it very much. And I said to them, okay, I know you guys are going to answer me honestly. What did you prefer, using my Facebook group page or using Moodle? They all pretty much said, yeah, Facebook. If nothing else, it's prettier to look at. The interface is designed by some of the best paid interface experience engineers to be pleasant to use and to be easy to use. So that's one of the first things that I would say is important when it comes to making lemonade. I think too, another thing about lemons turning into lemonade is that I think it's going to really leap online education into the future. People used to have almost like a diploma mill image of people who took online courses and said, that's not a real course. You didn't actually study with a real teacher. But now we're really going to go by leaps and bounds into what online education will be. One more thing that I want to show you is how what once was our nemesis in the classroom can now become helpful for us, because you can start using this phone to help you if you find a good app to help you do your teaching. And I want to show you just one thing that blends into what I want to do for fluency education. That's an entire 2-hour presentation on itself. But basically my idea is that you want to teach fluency more as a set of physical skills than it is a set of information. Take advantage of the fact that these kids have a lot of information about English in their heads. What you want to do is make them use it faster, think less, make the words come out faster, show them how to be able to speak more smoothly. And this is all drawn from my experience learning how to speak English. I wasn't a native speaker until I was about 10 years old. When my family moved to Canada, I was only 9. And when you're 9 years old, you don't receive formal education in the Philippines for English education. And I didn't really know that much English. It was always in the air. There's a lot of English in the air in the Philippines, but I couldn't speak. I had to learn how to speak. I took supplemental second language classes. But because, you know, children learn how to speak quickly, I was pretty much fluent by the time I was 10, less than a year. But I was also very lucky in that at 9 years old, I could remain cognizant of the little strategies that I had to become better so I could become part of the normal group in the schoolyard. And one of them is just basically, to boil it down to the main thing, is that you learn how to speak fast. If you don't learn how to speak fast, you won't become fluent. So part of that is that I teach these kids how to speak quickly by keeping them in track of their word count. So I'm going to show you an app here. Oh, there it is, right there next to my thumb. That's my thumb there, next to my face. And it's called, I'm going to type that now, but keep an eye on that icon. It was of a crown. The icon is for this app, Countess. And, oh, that's all panelists. Whoa, I got to get this to everyone. All panelists and attendees. Okay. Whoops. Countess. That's available for Android, and that's available for iPhone, of course. And what I tell the kids is, I'm going to give you a topic, and I just want you to talk for 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds. And that 30 seconds, okay, Countess, its function is basically this. Actually, no, I completely forgot. I'm going to screen share my phone now. So you crank up the app, and the app will show you this. Well, there's my phone, and that's Countess running right now. Here, let me take you right back. So I'm going to crank up Countess, this app right here, okay? Whoops, okay, I'm going to crank it up. There's a great big 0 there. And what you can do with it basically is just count. As I see, you can see me in the little avatar there. As I tap the screen, it will go up with every tap. It's a very, very simple function app. If you pay for the 200 yen version, then you can have running counts. You can leave them, go on to count something else. But with the free version, that's plenty for what I need because I can just clear it and I go on to the next person. So I'm going to show you how I do this. And I'm going to ask, Melody, how's your Japanese? Melody's, oh, there she is.
It's not that good.
Phil, how's your Japanese?
It's also not that good.
Then you're going to be great guinea pigs. Okay. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Melody, turn on your mic.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to ask you, we'll just make this for, I actually need my watch. I forgot to turn on my watch. So I put on my, oh, come on. I put on my stopwatch, and I'm only do this for 10 seconds. I'm not going to totally torture you. I'm going to ask you to talk about family. You think you can talk about family for 10 seconds?
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to time you for 10 seconds from ready, go. So when I say ready, go until I say stop, just talk as much as you can about your family, and I'm going to do a word count. So ready?
Hi.
Go.
じゃあ、私の家族は4人です。それと猫が2匹。猫の名前は白とストライプ。
Okay, so can you see that? You came up with 15 words for that 10 seconds. You multiply that by 6. 6 times 5 says 90 words per minute. It's pretty good. 90 words per minute puts you at, I would probably say, Sefer B1. And B2, you'll probably be Sefer B2 at around 110, 120, and then you start moving into fluency. Most adults, when they're so-called fluent in the language, thank you, Melody, by the way, will be hitting in at around 120 words per minute, according to research, in just about any language. It is also possible, though, that some people like me, when we really want to turn on the jets, we can start really talking really fast like this. And we end up at about 220, 250 words per minute. If an entire conversation is between two people who are speaking really fast and they're really motivated, they're talking about sports or whatever, and they're stepping on each other a bit, and they're talking over each other's sentences, the actual compacted word rate per minute will be something like 250, 260 words per minute. Our students almost never hear anything beyond 140, 150 words per minute. If you were to actually use an app like that and do your word count for yourself, you'd find that you actually speak, most of us speak at about 150, 160 words per minute. So how do I use that? At the beginning of the class, when the kids come in, I start the class and I tell them, okay, everybody, get out your count tests. This is a small class, or it could be a breakout room. Okay, and you tell them, okay, today's topic is family. Okay, go to your breakout rooms and everybody do each other for 30 seconds. And do each other means one person will speak, the other 3 will be doing the count. 30 seconds, and somebody will be doing the stopwatch. They compare their counts and get the average because it's very easy to make a mistake. So Jose got, I don't know, if it's a normal student, they'll probably get something in the order of about 45 to 55, maybe if they're fast, 65 words for a 30-second count. Then they do everybody else. Everybody comes back to the breakout rooms, and then you go on to your lesson. At the end of the class, I do it again, and I show them just how much. And it's usually a significant number, 5 or 7%, and it's fair. It's a completely different topic again. It's family this time, and Melody was like, oh, what should I say? So I give them another topic. I give them a topic like fashion or money, or things I don't like. So, you know, they got to do a little bit of thinking, but usually their fluency has gone up by about 5% over the past hour or so. Now, when I'm doing synchronous plus asynchronous work, probably won't be doing that, but I might be doing that when I'm doing the individual group work that I was talking about before. And it's a significant amount. And as I keep the data on these kids, I'm expecting that even with a sawtooth pattern, their overall fluency will go up from week 1 to week 15. But I don't have any data on that yet because this again came out of my idea that I have to make lemonade out of lemons. And I thought, hey, there's got to be an app that does a very simple function for counting. And as I thought about that, I thought, yeah, I can use my phone more. For those of you who use Quizlet, there is a way. I've seen people who use Quizlet and even with breakout rooms, and it turned out to be pretty good fun. And probably if you ask about that on Online Teaching Japan, you'll find people who've used it and can make it a success. All of these things, it doesn't necessarily all have to be bad things. I think we can make some pretty good things out of this. And you know what? I'm pretty sure those are the most important things I want to talk about. So we can go on to questions now, Melody and Phil, if that's okay with you, because actually that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about today.
Cool. Yep. We have a couple of questions there if you want to click on the Q&A button there.
Oogie, what do we got here? All righty, got to look like an old man again. Shirley Delsart. I don't know if I've mispronounced your name. I'm just going to apologize to everybody right away. Shirley, your question. How can you keep out unwanted guests from your Facebook live stream? Tough question. I actually started wrestling with that today because I was talking to a friend who said, I was Andrew. Andrew is still here. He was saying that he was watching a LinkedIn live stream and some obnoxious guy, maybe it was just, you know, pandemic stress, just butted in on the live stream and was being obnoxious in chat. And I tested that out in my Facebook live stream. And apparently, the chat itself cannot be terminated. It cannot be stopped. If your live stream is on, that chat is available to everybody else. And the reason why I didn't want to use chat in Zoom was because of what Andrew Meyerhoff experienced and what I could become afraid of and what you surely have pointed out. What about someone who is being obnoxious in chat? So, what I think I can do is this. You cannot turn off Facebook chat. Facebook is designed for maximum engagement. They want chat to be available because they want maximum engagement. But if you do a YouTube live stream itself will not have chat enabled if you turn it off. So I can see somehow doing a combination of Facebook as the main LMS, chat only being used during pedagogical sessions, and my live streaming coming through YouTube and then posted as a separate URL through Facebook. So some of these things that I'm suggesting, I'm still in the process of going through it myself. As I said, some of you have way more actual classroom hours than I have with Zoom. And that's a really good question. I only started struggling with that this morning. And no, there is no way to stop Facebook chat from being abused. However, one advantage is that once you get everybody into a private group, the only people who can chat are members of the group. So if some kid starts abusing it.
I have another question.
Sure,
so
Shirley.
If you have the private Facebook group, only the people in that group can watch the live stream?
Correct.
Okay.
If it originates, if you click the live stream button from within the private group, only that private group's members will get that.
Okay, so that would take care of the problem then.
Well, not necessarily. Again, you've got some kid who's, oh, this is pretty funny, and they type that, and you go, oh yeah, thanks, Taro. Can you please come to my office a little bit later? Just have your normal chat.
No problem from someone outside of the group coming in.
Won't happen.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Oh, but if some kid passes on his login credentials to some other kid, and that some other kid is in on the prank too, but then again, you've still got somebody's name attached to that comment.
Uh-huh.
Right. And they could say, oh, somebody hacked my computer. And they go, oh, interesting. Well, let's hope it never happens again for your sake. So you can do that, you know.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Linda Cadota. Am I pronouncing your name right, Cadota?
Yeah.
How do students submit their photos to you? You mean from the Facebook thing?
Yes.
Okay. They post it just as you would post a photo in Facebook. That's the great thing about it. They don't have to send it to me. I don't have to wade through tons and tons of email.
So everyone can see it?
Well, yes. So if you're asking for a submission of something that might involve private information, of course, be wary of that. But I don't mind these kids seeing each other's papers.
Okay.
But they know that they're going to see each other's papers. You got to also tell them that. Now, what you're writing, because you're giving that in the assignment. In the assignment, post a photo of your writing. And they go, then everybody can see it? Yes, everybody can see it. Please be careful of that. But everybody can see it. And so you can say, now, do you see where Kyoka wrote this? And also a lot of other people wrote that? Let's talk about that for a bit. And they can see all of that. But you got to be careful. You don't always just jump on Taro and Kyoka for making mistakes. You do as much complimenting of good writing style as you do like, well, everybody keeps making that mistake. Be careful about that. So again, you got to adjust for the digital stage.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Michael Hora.
Yes.
Asks, well, would you make the class Facebook group? Oh, absolutely. Well, okay. Number one, let's stay with terminology. Facebook has changed its terminology one more time. So there are only two types of groups. There are public groups and private groups.
There's no longer a secret group.
A secret group is now a private group.
Ah, okay. So you're using a private group.
Right. And they took all of the things that made a secret group secret and put it into a private group. And instead of like, there was like public and there was private and then there was secret. And the only thing that was different between secret and private was the idea that people could search on it or not. And what they did instead was they made two types of groups, public or private. And then in private, you can say whether or not you want it private or not.
Okay, so then people that are not in the group cannot see who is actually a member of the group then.
Absolutely. Let me show you that again. So I'm going to show you my my browser. So you come up here, and because you're the administrator, you're going to have this. Whoa, not the Vancouver Canucks. Why did I go to the Vancouver? That's my hockey team, by the way. The More button, and this More button, when you click it, will allow you to moderate the group and edit the group settings. You edit the group settings, that's where you can control things like privacy and who can enter and stuff like that.
Ah, excellent.
Get a whole bunch of settings here. You can name it. This is a nice little touch. You can take that name and you can, where is it here? I think I might have skipped it. Where is it? You can customize, oh, there it is. You can change the address. So the URL actually includes the name.
Okay.
So if you choose a unique name, it's actually easy to find. It doesn't have some gobbledygook code name. And again, a little bit of a nice touch. You can control whether or not it's easy to find. And that actually, for now, it is visible, so then they can search for it directly. And then once we're in the class and I notice that everybody on the name list is already in the group, then I would probably change that to hidden.
Oh, excellent. Can I ask an attached question?
Go. Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought you meant like, can you ask me another question? So yeah, right here. See this? Ask question.
No, sorry. I literally did mean, can I ask you another question? I wanted to ask about whether you request they use their actual full names.
I'm going to. Okay. And if they don't have a Facebook account yet, I'm going to tell them, help me out, get started, put it in Romaji, because if you put it in kanji, I'm going to ask you to put that in Romaji anyway. If a kid says, I don't want to, then I can't tell them not to. And it's more kanji practice for me. I actually kind of like it that way. It's more work for me, and I'm going to ask them to put it in Romaji just this semester because I want less work for me. But if they say no, I'll cope with it. But to answer the other question, you can ask attached questions. So you end up here where it says, to get membership, you have to answer this question. Now, they all know my name because it's attached to their registration form. And if they answer that to any degree, Cruz José, José Cruz, in Romaji or katakana, in any degree, then I know that's one of my students at least.
Great.
Maybe they got confused and it's not the right class, but I know they're okay to enter.
You could ask them which period class are you registered in?
Absolutely, sure. You can do that as a second question or whatever. Then posting permissions, okay, anyone in the group, but most importantly, membership approval. Only allow yourself. They can invite others, so that, oh yeah, my buddy Jiro is in the same class. There's an invite button and he's having trouble. I'm going to invite him. Cool. But I'm the only one that gets to say if Jiro comes in or not.
Great.
Lots of controls here.
Thanks, Jose.
Hey, you're very welcome. And come back. No open questions. I'm feeling good because I think I did what I needed to do. So, Melody, Phil,
Phil, would you bring us back in?
Yep. Give me 1 second here.
I want to see what people were discussing, actually. So what are we up to, Melody? What do we got now? You're muted.
Okay, well, I'd like to do the thank yous. Thank you so much, Jose. We got a lot of fantastic feedback, really good questions. Thank you to everybody who's come today. We can't do it without you, so we're really glad that you took part. And as I said at the beginning, this is the first time we're doing this, but we're going to try maybe every 3 weeks. Niigata JALT will host with another chapter or SIG on a variety of topics, so we'll keep you posted. That's for people in Niigata. Tokyo, sounds like Matt is empowered and he's going to start doing stuff and inviting us to join. Phil, thank you so much.
No, it was a lot of fun.
Phil, a big hand for Phil. Yay, Phil. Thank you.
Hopefully I can share how to do a webinar for those that want to run one in the future.
Yes, you will. We're going to pick your brain and have you do
my brain.
next time.
Hey,
thanks,
that could be
everyone.
a presentation in and of itself, how to do a webinar.
Yes,
Cool.
Yes. Okay, so that's it. Have a nice rest of your Sunday, everybody, and see you again.
I want to thank everyone. I want to thank all the
sure.
attendees. I want to thank you very much for your kind patience for listening. I want to thank you for your questions, and I'm going to read all of this feedback, and I want to become a better presenter. So thank you very much for anything that you said. If you want to contact me, if you want to do any email, I'm going to type in my email right now. At goldfish365.com. You will also see that I'm a frequent poster of online teaching Japan. So please, again, join, and you can get me there. And I hope I can make some new friends out of this. Thank you again.